President of the Hall of Fame Committee. Tonight, it is my honor and privilege to be your Master of Ceremonies and to introduce to you the class of 2013. It's okay, you can clap. Crowd participation is good. Tonight we reach a milestone in the history of the Hall of Fame. It all started back in 1995 when the charter was created. 2 years later, we inducted our first class in 1997, and 16 years later, tonight, we induct our 10th class of Hall of Famers. This evening, 6 athletes, 2 teams, and 2 coaches will take their rightful place, standing shoulder to shoulder among the greats in the history of Reading High School. Tonight's inductees will be part of an elite club that now numbers just 100 members. 69 athletes, 13 coaches, and 18 teams now comprise the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame. When you look at the great history and rich tradition of our school, it is an amazing accomplishment for the class of 2013 and all those who came before you. Congratulations on what you've done for RMHS. Also this evening, we're going to remember an old friend who left us far too soon, and introduce you to a gentleman who's been a large backer of Reading High School sports for a number of years. He does it quietly, he does it behind the scenes. He does it because he loves it and because it needs to be done. We'll meet him in the second half of the program as well. During the last 2 years, the Hall of Fame has met some challenges, to say the least. And one of those challenges, is operating without the man at the top of the pyramid, our Hall of Fame president, Don Pierce. Don spent most of 2013 on the disabled list. He wasn't able to be there at meetings to offer his leadership and his guidance and his direction. He wasn't there to do those little things behind the scenes that the Hall of Fame so desperately needed. As Joni Mitchell, a rock and roll Hall of Famer, once sang, "You don't know what you got till it's gone." Well, we found out the hard way how difficult it was without our leader, without Don Pierce. I am happy to say that Don is here this evening, and I think at this point he needs to be recognized. So Don, if you would please rise and receive a well-earned round of applause. Without Don at the top of the pyramid this year, we had to step up, and he has a great group around him, literally and figuratively. I'd like to recognize the remaining members of the Hall of Fame Committee. When I call your names, you can please stand, and we'll hold our applause till the end and give everyone a round of applause at one time. Daily Times Chronicle editor for, 30 years now, Steve Algieri. All right, you don't have to listen to this one. CEO of the Reading Bulldogs, John Halsey. CEO of Sports Zone One-on-One and our media coordinator for tonight, Nick Face. 2011 Hall of Famer, the man known as Ace, Ted Bryson. This young lady was very important in getting us into the world of social media this year. I want to thank Kara Dayer-Mengen. Athletic Director at RMHS, Tom Zayer. And a gentleman who deserves an awful lot of credit for putting everything together this year. He was the backbone of the Hall of Fame. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Jeff Pierce. Welcome once again, folks. I trust that everyone's enjoying the evening. And the best part is on the horizon when we get to meet all of our honored guests. But before we meet the class of 2013, we want to take a moment to recognize the Hall of Famers in attendance this evening, inducted previously. So if we have a moment, we'd like to have all of the Hall of Famers inducted previously. Please rise, be recognized, and receive a well-deserved round of applause. would be remiss if I didn't mention the passing of one of our Hall of Famers. Dick Horton, who was Reading High School class of 1961, was a tremendous, tremendous three-sport athlete. So good that he was a first ballot Hall of Famer in 1997. Dick passed last month at the age of 70. The Hall of Fame committee would like to send its best, its sympathies and prayers off to the family and friends of the great Dick Horton. I mentioned in the first part of the program that the Hall of Fame committee faced several challenges in the last 2 years. And I think if you asked the committee members to a person, we'd say that fundraising was at the top of the list. What were we going to do to raise enough funds to support the infrastructure of the Hall of Fame? We asked people in the community, we asked businesses to open up their checkbook, open up their wallet, and like the athletes at Reading High School, when the pressure was on, when we needed people to step up, they did, and they stepped up in a big way. You see some banners behind me from Sports Zone 101. I want to thank Nick Face, the CEO, for stepping forward. The Reading Bulldogs of the Intercity League, John Halsey, the CEO. And the Lexington Blue Sox, their arch rival, huh? Isn't that pretty good? Rick DeAngelis and his group, thank you so much for stepping forward. And they're not the only ones who stepped forward. If I turn your attention to the program, and please look through those sponsor pages. If there's a sponsor in there that can fulfill a need for you, if they can provide a service, please give them a call, and please let them know you saw the ad in the Hall of Fame program. I know they would appreciate it, and the Hall of Fame committee would appreciate it also. We also had 20-some-odd individuals donate to the Hall of Fame as well, and at last check, more than 50% of the individuals that donated are Hall of Famers, and I think that's a great trend, that the previous inductees are involved in the Hall of Fame, they care about the Hall of Fame enough to open up their checkbooks and send us a donation. So thank you to all of our donors. Without your support, without your help, literally, we could not be doing what we're doing tonight. So thank you so very much. A few acknowledgments to pass along before we get started. I'll be brief with these. Our media coordinator, Nick Face, I want to thank him for doing the interviews beforehand with the inductees. We have some folks with cameras here. It's nice to know that banquet's being covered. It's really nice to know that people are actually going to see it this time around. So Nick, thank you for that. We were looking in the program a second ago, and I have to thank Jeff Pierce for all he did with the program. It's a great presentation. It was tremendous 2 years ago. Jeff, this is even better. This is outstanding. Congratulations on a job very well done. While we're in the program, there's a social media page. We jumped into the world of social media for the first time, the Hall of Fame. And I tell you, scared a few of our Hall of Fame committee members, but we knew we had to do it. We had to make the jump in order to be a successful organization. We have a website, rmhshof.com. There's a lot of great information there. Again, sponsor pages there. There's bios on all of our inductees, videos from tonight. Some of the highlights will be up there as well. And also, we're very active on Facebook. So if you get a chance, get on Facebook, like us. It's some great stories, articles, pictures, just general conversation about the Hall of Fame, about Reading High School athletics. So if you're a fan, and obviously you are because you're here this evening, like us on Facebook. And for some of you who are, maybe check with your kids, and they'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about. One of the things that makes tonight extra special for the inductees and their families are the videos that we're going to show in just a little bit. I tell you, there's such a tremendous amount of work that goes into these videos. It starts with the inductees providing materials for us, and we want to thank them for doing that. The committee members write scripts, the voiceover's done, and then we take all of that information and we dump it in the lap of this gentleman over here, Scott Losinger, and we say, Scott, these need to be great. And year after year after year they are. And this year's are better than ever. It was a lot of hard work. It was a lot harder this year than in years before. But again, you stepped up and they're fantastic. Thank you so much for making this special. Tom, I need your help now. Tom's there, everybody. All of our inductees are going to receive a plaque this evening that Tom is now displaying. That's beautifully done, Tom. Tom went to the Vanna White School earlier. So all of our inductees will get the plaque. A smaller version of that plaque, the picture is now mounted on the Wall of Fame, which is located in the second floor lobby of the Walter Hawks Fieldhouse. We had a reception there earlier today, and some of the inductees were able to come by, and it was great to see the expressions and the joy, not only on their faces, but the faces of their families. It was a great presentation. We were very happy that they could be there. We want to thank Don Kalianides and his team for taking care of the Wall of Fame. 10 induction ceremonies, 10 times Don has stepped forward, and he does it out of the goodness of his heart. He provides the material, he provides the labor, so without Don's help, it's a tremendous burden on us. So Don, thank you so much for taking care of us. We're almost done with this, I promise. Each of our Hall of Famers, as well as the members of the 74 football team and 94 baseball team, will receive a challenge coin that you can't see, but I can. On the front of it is the Hall of Fame logo. On the back of it is the Town of Reading seal. So when our inductees come up, you'll have an opportunity to bring these home with you. I want to thank John Halsey, Nick Face for putting this together. These are outstanding. It came together very quickly. It was hard work, but they did a great job. So guys, thanks very much. All right, so we are all on the same page. This is how it works. I will say a few brief words about our inductee. We'll then see the video. And then after the video, we'll hear their brief but yet riveting speech, and then we'll move on to the next one. So, we'll start tonight's banquet the way we started the last 7. And that's with the presentation of the Cliff Allen Award. A few of you in the room knew Cliff Allen. For those of you who didn't, let me give you a background on this great gentleman. Cliff graduated from Reading High School in 1965. He was a member of the track and football teams. And he had a love and a passion not only for Reading High School sports, but for the town of Reading. He serviced this community in every way imaginable. As a member of the school committee and countless youth organizations, he was a very active member of his church community. I first met Cliff around 1970 when I was an 11-year-old playing Pop Warner. He was my coach, and I, in my eyes, was his star running back. Cliff didn't necessarily see it that way, and then we established our relationship that day. We didn't know that 20 years later we'd be reunited again through football, but this time in the broadcast booth, as Cliff and I covered Reading High School football on cable television. We had a 4-year run that was one of the best times of our lives. It was just great. The fact that the teams were great made it easy, but the fact that Cliff was such a gentleman and such a professional made going to games and going to the broadcast booth an absolute joy for me. I miss Cliff every day, especially on nights like this. At the time of his passing, Cliff was the Hall of Fame president, and he was a charter member of the Hall of Fame. He loved this organization. It gave him another opportunity to talk about the teams, the players, the coaches. And if you knew Cliff, the one thing he could do was talk. In his own words, I can make a short story short and a short story long, or I can never make a long story short. Shortly after his passing, the Hall of Fame committee knew we had to do something to honor Cliff's memory, and we do that every 2 years by presenting an award in his name that goes to a person with the same passion and fire and love for Reading High School athletics. When you look at the resume of this year's recipient, there's no question that Rick Carter is the right guy. Rick has been a supporter of Reading girls basketball for years. He's done it behind the scenes. He's done it because he loves it. He is a key member of the fundraising effort for the Reading Baseball Club, which has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to support changes of the Newton Morton Field. Here's a video look at what makes Rick Carter this year's recipient of the Cliff Allen Award. Rick Carter is the definition of a Reading Memorial High School contributor and unsung hero. An unsung hero can be defined as a person who makes substantive yet unrecognized contribution
a person whose generosity is unknown or unacknowledged. The reason Rick can be described in this manner is no accident. Rick is the kind of guy who always makes sure he remains behind the scenes, never flaunting or boasting his generosity. Instead, Rick makes contributions and donations to Reading schools, athletic programs, and charitable organizations simply because he wants to help out a worthy cause in need, never looking for anything in return. Trying to get Rick to talk about himself is difficult. He is not one to bask in the glory of helping others, but instead, he does his good deeds, then steps back. The RMHS Hall of Fame committee thought it was time to thank Rick for all he's done by presenting him with the Cliff Allen Award. The committee wanted his hard work and support to finally be brought to light, even if he would deem this thanks as unnecessary. Rick has many friends and acquaintances that are public figures, whether it be former Bruins players, high-profile comedians and actors, or even some current Boston athletes. Carter has partnered with these friends in events that have benefited athletics in town to a great degree. The fact that these celebrities are taking time out to help Rick says a lot about his character and the loyalty they have shown to Rick, quite a tribute. Not only does Rick's humbleness stand out as one of his most amicable qualities, he is also known for being calm under pressure and being honest to a T in a world where a lot of people only look out for themselves. What I consider to be Rick's strongest asset is his honesty. I've often referred to him as the last honest man, said Bob Gillespie, Rick's close friend and business partner of 20 years. Rick never panics. Carter has been a very generous supporter of the RMHS girls basketball program over the years. His law firm sponsors the Shoot a 3 for a T fundraiser, where he donates the t-shirts that are given out at halftime events at each home game. This donation allows the basketball program to attract young fans and future players by having them involved at games. The Reading fan base in turn continues to grow, and coming to RMHS girls basketball games became a fun and interactive experience. Rick was also instrumental in organizing a very successful comedy night fundraiser at Giggles Comedy Club on behalf of the girls basketball program. He not only recruited some very well-known comedians to perform, he also secured several big auction items from area professional teams. Hosting comedy nights for worthy causes like the girls basketball team and Reading Baseball Club is something Rick excels at. Carter hosted over 7 comedy nights for the Reading Baseball Club alone, raising over $220,000. Again, these numbers are not something you would find printed up in the Reading Chronicle or the Reading Patch, but you have to dig deep to uncover the immense amount of money Rick has brought in by spearheading these types of events. Rick has a knack of selling out 300-person venues, getting his high-profile comedian friends to perform while making it all look easy. I have helped Rick out with some charitable causes he has organized over the past 2 decades. Although there are too many to list, he has always been there for so many people, including his friends, and contacts in both the comedy and sports world, said Gillespie. He has helped out so many friends and families in a time of need that it makes me proud to be his friend. For several years, Rick sponsored an ad in the RMHS basketball program book. When his daughter Renee played for the girls program, she was the top fundraiser for our Shoot-a-thon for cancer research with Rick's support. With Rick Carter's support, enthusiasm, and professional advice, the Reading girls basketball program was able to grow in popularity and have the funds needed to advance to a new level, achieving great things as one of the best high school basketball programs in the state, said varsity girls basketball coach Kim Penny. Carter was also instrumental in the efforts in raising funds for the upgraded playing surface, new outfield fence, and electronic scoreboard at the Morton Field where the RMHS varsity baseball teams plays their home games. With Rick's help, the field went from being one of the least attractive in the league to one of the most envied. On a more personal level, Rick is one to help out a friend in a time of need. After the passing of Gillespie's son Ryan, Rick took it upon himself to create an event for over 600 people to raise money for the Ryan Gillespie Foundation, a foundation that has been able to give money to local charities, an effort that started with Rick. This December alone, we gave out checks to our local charities in the amount of over $10,000 from our son Ryan's foundation, and it all started because one man wanted to help out a grieving friend and his family. That man is Rick Carter, the last honest man. Behind Rick is a solid support system. His family is always hard at work at the events, in particular his wife Chris, who has been instrumental behind the scenes keeping everything on track. And it is hard to imagine an activity that the Carter children, Renee, Scott, and Ryan, are involved where Rick is not present to support or actively participate in. And this includes most likely attending every Celtics home game for the past 6 seasons in support of Scott's sideline roles for the C's. Rick's contributions are countless, and a huge reason why is because a lot of what he does is under an anonymous name tag. Talking to various people in town, it is not surprising if they have a nice story about how Rick has helped them or their organization out in one way or the other. Chances are, each of us who has been associated with RMHS athletics has something we could thank Rick for. We just haven't, because his motto might as well be, no thanks required. The RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame would like to congratulate Rick Carter as the 8th recipient of the Cliff Allen Award.
I'm honored to present Rick Carter. Take your time.
The video's going to go a little longer. Can I pull one of these out? I pace a lot. Thank you very much. That was very impressive there. I'm going to start off by saying this is just a great night for the Carter family before I get into a lot of thanks and congratulations and recognition there. And then let me explain why it's such a great night. I didn't really tell my wife too much about tonight's event there, and she had to read about a lot of the information in the Reading Chronicle. And the Chronicle correctly said Rick Carter is being inducted into the Reading Athletic Hall of Fame on November 23rd. She reads it wrong and reads it as Rick Carter is being indicted on November 23rd. I know the class of 74 appreciates that one. Kenny Hollings was saying, I can see why she'd make that confusion there. So that was super there. I really do appreciate it there. And tonight I just want to thank a few people, recognize a few people, and again, congratulate a few people there. This is actually pretty surreal for me, seeing a lot of old friends here tonight there. So a lot of those functions there were from Reading Baseball Club there. Our goal was to have an entertaining night and make a little money for the town, right? And I think we did that. And there's a ton of people here tonight I'd like to thank. I wish I had more time. It would take me hours to thank everyone that has helped me during all these fundraising events. But John Halsey and Jeff Pierce, Mark Nelson, George Ravanis, Norm Harvey. Let's see, the Radicics are here tonight. A lot of these people were so supportive, so much so that they weren't taking my calls anymore in November there because they knew I was going to be calling for it. The Radicics actually had to move out of town there to avoid the calls there. So Jim Lucci, on and on and on, Scott Ferris. Again, it would take me hours to thank everyone there. Peter Moscarello, I'd like to thank him, congratulate him, and recognize him tonight. He's actually a hero to myself, hero to my family, and if you want any proof of that, just read his letter that he wrote to the Chronicle about a month ago. It shows what a classy individual he is and what a great guy he is. Thank you for all your help, and one of the reasons I was working so much was because Pete was involved in it there. I want to thank Mark Doherty, You know, he's always been very supportive of all my events there. You know, when I hear that expression of salt of the earth, I always think of Mark Doherty and Judy Doherty and Brenda Doherty and my man Pete Doherty. Mark's always been a great friend of mine and a great friend of Reading there, so I appreciate all you've done there. Let's see. I'd like to acknowledge my kids only because they're going to be really annoyed by that. So love them dearly. Renee, Scott, and Ryan there. They're just such a loyal group of kids there. You know, they love life and they're always fighting for the underdog there, and I really appreciate it. I got to congratulate my daughter. She's actually got admitted to the Mass Bar Association, probably one of the youngest attorneys out in Massachusetts. I got to thank Chris Carter. Other than days that she's thinking I'm being indicted, I appreciate all her support there. Let's see. I would like to acknowledge tonight there, and then maybe congratulate a few of the people that are being honored tonight. This is just such a great event. I got to tell you, there's not many towns that honor their own like something like this, and this is why I've always, to be honest with you, just so much pride in Reading there, and this is probably why I do a lot of fundraising there. I've just met some great families over the time there, and I just want to thank and congratulate a few groups there tonight there. I know Steve Gath is here tonight, and I was lucky enough to work with Steve on one of his fundraisers there for his good friend Pete Frates and the ALS Foundation. I was lucky enough to have Stephen, Jamie, and Sarah all work for me at my office there, and as good of athletes they are, and they're great athletes, they're almost better people there. I know there's the Gath family is coming out in forces tonight there, and you should be very proud of the Gaths. Got to give a sidebar to Jamie. He was worried I wasn't going to bring enough family members tonight, so Jamie says I'll get an extra table of Gaths to root you on there. So thank you, Jamie. There, I'm not sure which table is mine. They're over there? All right, okay. Thank you. And lastly, I got to acknowledge the class of 74 here. And congratulate Kenny Hollingsworth for persevering, getting the field name in honor of his dad, in honor of Coach Hollingsworth. It's a testament to the Hollingsworth family and to the class of 74. Just a great group of guys. Probably, I'm prejudiced, but probably some of the best athletes ever to come out of Reading. But again, they're just, their personalities are even bigger there. I wish I had a lot more time to give a lot of good stories and bad stories about them. It's good to see Tommy Dwyer. Restraining orders must be disbanded because he's up here. It's good to see him. And I want to thank Steve Gary for all the efforts. I've had a ton of families help me over the years there. Steve Gary has been there from day one. Never really asked any questions other than how much do you want me to donate. And I really appreciate Steve Gary and families like Steve Gary. I'll leave it on this. I want to thank all you families in Reading that have been so supportive. Thank you for supporting myself and my family. I truly feel blessed, and thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. I'm really proud to call Rick my friend when it's time to refinance. All right. Pick it up a little bit. You got a little bit of that one. Make it better. So now it's time to meet the Hall of Fame class of 2013. The first member we'll meet, Virginia Bartlett, will be inducted posthumously. Back in the 1950s and 60s, when Miss Bartlett was at Reading High School, girls did not have the same chances athletically as their male counterparts. We all know that. Ginny Bartlett refused to accept it. She did everything within her power to create, develop, and coach program after program after program. She wanted to ensure that her girls had an opportunity to compete in interscholastic athletics. Ginny Bartlett was an educator, she was a coach, she was a pioneer.
Something that a lot of us take for granted in today's world is the inclusion of girls in high school athletics. In Reading, the reason many of us are able to view girls in the athletic realm as the norm is greatly due to the work of one woman, Virginia Bartlett. Virginia was not only the physical education teacher at RMHS for 28 years from 1958 to 1986, but she worked tirelessly to elevate the recognition of girls' athletics during the span of her 40-year teaching career. She was a mentor to hundreds of girls at a time when girls' athletics needed a role model and a strong advocate. RMHS Hall of Fame coach John Hollingsworth noted that before the idea was popular, Virginia Bartlett believed in equal rights for women in athletics, and she was one of the first people to do something about it. She was the first field hockey coach the town of Reading ever knew, and also took the time to coach basketball, softball, track, and gymnastics. At one point, Virginia was the coach of all 3 girls' varsity teams that existed at RMHS, including the Rockettes' undefeated softball team in 1959. She also organized the Girls Leaders Club, which focused on the support of girls' intramural sports during a time when girls' varsity sports were not prominent. When Virginia started the field hockey program, there were 8 girls on the team. Within 3 years, Reading was playing a varsity schedule. Virginia recalled that one of the greatest events in her life was when her team defeated Swampscott High School 1-0, a team that she played for, and it was against her former coach, the legendary Flora McLean.
Before Title IX came into existence, there were these women that really fostered the development of girls' athletics. When I talk to women that were fortunate enough to go through Reading High, and they had the opportunity to play because of Ginny, there's only one reaction. They just look at me and say, she was great. I have been the field hockey coach now for over 20 years, and when I first started coaching the field hockey team, the Reading Teachers Association had an award that they had donated. They called it the Virginia Bartlett Award for outstanding contributions to the sport of field hockey, which apparently was Ginny's favorite sport. So it would come the night of the banquet, and I'd be getting ready to give out this award. And when I would say the Bartlett Award, it was really great. I'd look out there, and in front of me, I could tell any of the women that had grown up in Reading and had played for Ginny, because they'd sit a little bit taller, they'd put a smile on their face, and no matter who got that award, they were clapping. They were just clapping for that recipient, and they were clapping for Ginny at the same time. And the thought that would come to my mind is Ginny fostered development of girls' athletics at Reading and also in general in surrounding towns. But what she gave us here at Reading was a love of playing, and one generation passed it on to their daughters. So what I've got to say is thank you, Ginny, for all that you did for all of the girls.
Virginia worked to create a Middlesex League gymnastics development program in 1964 with a cohort and presented Reading's first gymnastics exhibition. After her assistant left the school, Bartlett kept up the program by herself. In 1965, she and 3 other coaches started a girls' track program, which was only the second such program in the Boston area. With the benefit of Virginia's research, they also managed to secure a sponsorship for the track event from the H.P. Hood Company that was significant enough that it received television coverage. Virginia was known for helping out in every girls' athletic program in the school, no matter the sport. If a program was in need, Virginia was there to teach and assist. She took physical education and athletics seriously, viewing these activities as not just games, but as tools to build confidence, teach about respect, and inspire her students to be proud of their accomplishments. Her energy and contributions extended outside the school environment, where she led a Girl Scout troop, gave classes at the local YMCA, and was an avid tennis player and skier. Robert Wells, former superintendent of Reading Schools, once referred to Bartlett as the girls' coach. He said no matter the season, she has been there. She's a person who could always be depended upon as a volunteer to provide an extra pair of hands when it was needed. Virginia's good nature and tendency to step up when called upon is reflected by her time spent as acting athletic director during a prolonged illness of Walter Hawks, RMHS Hall of Famer. Bartlett exhibits incredible grace under pressure. She's a strong, flexible leader, said former Assistant Superintendent Dr. Robert Munley. Virginia was also the driving force behind bringing intramural programs into interscholastic competition with several towns on the North Shore, organizing a league schedule for girls' basketball games, and assigning game officials at a time when local athletic directors were not favorably disposed to the idea. A humble woman, Virginia has been described as not knowing how to brag about herself. Instead of talking about herself and her accomplishments, she would prefer to credit those around her for why she was so passionate about her work. I always wanted to teach. People are my thing, she said. Virginia took pride in watching her students and players thrive and find success. To her, that in itself was a reward for all her hard work and dedication. Upon her retirement in 1986, the always caring and optimistic Bartlett stated, "I feel good about my teaching experience. The best part has always been the young people and seeing them grow. It is the reason I chose to become a teacher. I have tried to let students know there is a place for everyone and that they all have a right to feel good about themselves." So it is with great pride the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame welcomes Virginia Bartlett into the class of 2013.
Speaking on behalf of Virginia Bartlett, her nephew, Dave Lemon. Certainly may.
I didn't know Ginny as a coach, so the first thing I wish to tell everybody, she was a really good aunt. She was the coolest aunt you could have. She knew about sports, she knew what high school students were interested in. I'm very proud to be able to call her my aunt. I can also tell you that what was reflected in that video, Ginny lived for. And if she were here today, I know one thing she would want to say is she would want to thank everybody in the room. I also know, and those of you who know her know this is right, she'd also want to say that how glad she was that almost 20% of the people that are in the Hall of Fame are female. She'd want to say that, and probably say it again, mention it on the way out. She was dedicated her whole life to that same goal. So, on behalf of Ginny's family, thank you very much for this honor.
Thank you, Dave. The committee also wants to thank Mim Jarima for a couple of different things. Adding to the video, Mim, that was perfect. It was beautifully done. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mim, for being the champion of this cause. Mim has asked many times for Virginia Bartlett to be considered for the Hall of Fame. She didn't let it go. And Virginia, we are better off, Mim, I'm sorry, we are better off that you were so persistent. Thank you. So we head to the 1960s, where Reading begins to dominate the landscape of the Middlesex League. A couple of the key reasons are in the room tonight. In fact, more than a couple of the key reasons are in the room tonight. But a couple of the key reasons are coming up on the docket. First, we're going to meet John Meehan. John was an outstanding three-sport athlete at Reading: football, baseball, hockey. In fact, he may have been the first great hockey player in the history of a great hockey program. And he was an even better baseball player. But it wasn't John's ability to throw a football or to skate or to hit a baseball that made him special. It was those intangibles, the great character and great leadership that served him well at RMHS and for many years beyond.
The class of 1963's John Meehan was a natural when it came to athletics. His raw athletic ability stood out on the playing venues at Reading Memorial High School. He became the man for all seasons. Prior to the explosion of three-sport stars at RMHS that would make names for themselves in the second half of the decade of the 1960s, Meehan set the pace for those future Hall of Famers on the gridiron, ice, and baseball diamond. Meehan's legacy at Reading High included being a 2-year starting quarterback on the football team, a captain and 2-year league all-star on the hockey team, and an all-league and state-level all-star and captain in baseball. Meehan's athletic accomplishments continued for another 5 years on the prep and collegiate level, and when it came to making a mark in his chosen profession, his record of achievement and success was taken to an even more impressive level. John was a member of the 1960 undefeated RMHS Hall of Fame football team, which was captained by his future brother-in-law, the late Ken Olson. After splitting time at quarterback in his junior year, he came back for his senior year a much more polished field general, according to newspaper reports. During the '62 season, he bloomed into an elusive option quarterback and valued contributor in the defensive secondary. With the team in rebuilding mode, the young squad relied on Meehan's legs to generate much of its offense that season. The hustling redhead, as he was described, was adept at mixing in the pass to a run-oriented attack. Meehan was his team's leading rusher on many occasions to go with his passing yardage. His senior season highlights started with a late 30-yard scoring strike to Newell in Reading's 6-0 victory against Saugus, a Class A squad. Against Winchester, it was Meehan that ran in the winning points with a 2-point conversion in an 8-6 victory, then knocked down a pass to a 6'4" Sachem receiver to halt their final scoring drive. Meehan's well-established passing accuracy was on display when he completed 10 of 15 passes for over 100 yards against Lexington, and then against league champ Melrose, he had what Coach John Hollingsworth called his best game of the season, falling just short of upsetting the eventual champs. Reading's first varsity-level hockey program was formed in the 59-60 season, and the following year, waiting on the doorstep of the new program, was a 15-year-old defenseman named John Meehan. The Reading High boys hockey program can now fill an entire book on the awards and accolades of its players and teams. But on page 1, when Reading was still a fledgling program, the name John Meehan needs to be mentioned as Reading Hockey's first league all-star. Predating the existence of a youth hockey program in town, Meehan learned the game skating on the outdoor flooded rink at Birch Meadow with no formal instruction. Then, as an RMHS player, he would attend practices at 5 a.m. at Phillips Academy prior to each school day and play home games at the Lynn Arena and occasionally at the Boston Arena and Boston Garden. In that era of hockey in the greater Boston area, it was the schools with access to in-town rinks that flourished and dominated the high school hockey landscape, such as Melrose and Belmont. But while at a disadvantage depth-wise, Reading was able to achieve respectability, largely due to having one of the league's standout players in John Meehan. The 5'11", 160-pound Meehan was a feisty defensive-minded defenseman who was more known for his open ice hitting and stand-up work in front of his goaltender than letting loose his offensive skills. In his junior year, the all-league team consisted of 12 players. 11 of those players played for either Melrose or Belmont, including future NHL player Paul "The Shot" Hurley and current University of New Hampshire coach Dick Umili. And then there was Meehan, the lone representative for the rest of the league's programs. As the senior captain in '63, Reading began the slow climb that would eventually lead to its first tournament berth later in the decade. The Rockets got off to the best start in the short history of the program, and the Reading Chronicle noted that it was Meehan's length of the ice rush and goal that salted away Reading's first victory of the season against Lexington. John copped his second straight All-League honor as a defenseman alongside Hurley. As outstanding a hockey player as Meehan was, and as productive a football player as he was, it would not be a stretch to say that in baseball, John may have exceeded his performance in both. As a youth, baseball received most of Meehan's attention when it came to athletics. From a young age as a Little League All-Star to his years at Reading High School, John's talent stood out on the baseball diamond. As just a 13-year-old Pony League player, Reading's semi-pro town team took him along to play an exhibition game against the inmates at Concord Prison, and a memorable experience for young John. At RMHS, Meehan started making his mark in his junior season, where he was the starting third baseman and batted at the top of the order. His last game of his junior year against Methuen, he had a 4-hit game in what turned out to be a precursor to things to come. In his senior season, Meehan broke out at the plate with the help of former Chicago Cubs shortstop and Reading resident Lenny Marullo. Meehan credits the former 7-year major leaguer with providing him the instruction that increased his confidence and led to his stellar senior season. Early on in the 1963 season, it was evident to coach John Pacino that the team had a hole defensively at the catcher's position. Despite being a natural third baseman, it was the team captain, Meehan, who stepped up to the challenge and was named the team's catcher for their opener against Lexington. It was noted in the Reading paper that after an early throwing error, Lexington mistook Meehan for having a wild arm. Much to their chagrin, it was not true, as Meehan ended up throwing out 4 Minuteman base stealers on the afternoon and provided 2 hits and an RBI in the team's 3-2 opening league win. In a mid-season victory over Melrose, 2 future RMHS Hall of Famers were facing each other as opponents when Meehan had his best day at the plate on the season. Melrose righty Tom Kasperzak was having his way with the Rockets through 7 innings, allowing just a lone run. However, in the 8th inning, it was Meehan's 3rd hit of the day, a 2-out triple that started a comeback that led to a 6-5 Reading win. Meehan ended up with 4 hits and 2 RBI in the contest. John finished the season as the team's leading hitter with a .409 batting average, while also leading the team in doubles, triples, and knocking in 11 runs. John went on to receive All-League recognition at the end of the season, as well as being named to the second-team state All-Star team. John topped off his athletic career at RMHS by being named the recipient of the Dr. Charles Wakeling Award, which honored the senior boy who best represented achievement, academics, and leadership at Reading High. John Meehan's athletic career was far from over when he departed Reading High. In his year of prep school at Hebron Academy, he played all 3 of his sports and captained the football team. In the fall of '64, John entered Dartmouth College. At Dartmouth, he started off playing both hockey and baseball. After a promising start in baseball, where he batted .386 as a freshman, he decided to curtail his baseball playing to focus on hockey. Meehan thrived as a defenseman for the Big Green and was elected captain of the freshman team and then the varsity team as a senior. Over the course of his 3 varsity years, he went up against the nation's #1 team in Cornell with its future NHL Hall of Fame goalie, Ken Dryden, on 6 occasions. John maintained his connection to the Reading sports community throughout his college years. He was a youth camp instructor for the recreation department in the summers at Glen Meadow Playground and was chosen as a guest speaker at the Reading Youth Hockey Banquet. His connection to Reading sports ended in the summer of '65 after starring for 2 years on the same Reading semi-pro baseball team where he debuted 7 years earlier in his memorable 1-game stint. As a catcher for the first-place town team, Meehan was the team's 3rd leading hitter, batting .354. Following graduation, John was accepted for Officers Candidate School and then entered the Navy as an officer, where he served his country for 3 years, including a 1-year tour of combat on a swift boat in South Vietnam. After the service, John completed a residency at the Boston Hospital for Women for 1 year before attending the University of Minnesota, where he received his master's in health administration. John eventually landed at the Hartford Hospital, the 4th largest public hospital in New England. It is there where he made his biggest impact when he was the youngest person in the history of the hospital to be named president at the age of 39, and then the youngest CEO at the age of 41. John helped lead the hospital to tremendous growth as a surgical facility renowned for organ transplantation and as a major teaching hospital. John remained in the CEO position for 21 years before retiring in 2008. John and his wife Pam currently live in Naples, Florida, but still have strong family ties living in the Boston and Hartford area, including their 3 sons. It is with great honor that the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame welcomes John Meehan to its class of 2013.
Please welcome John Meehan.
Thank you very much. I once worked with a hospital chaplain whose philosophy about homilies was be sincere, be brief, and be seated. So I'll follow that tonight. I would like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for the enormous amount of work that they do as volunteers to make a program like this happen and be so successful. In particular, I'd like to thank Jeff Pierce, who worked with me for the last year or so, and Jeff did an incredible amount of work, research, writing, and I really appreciate everything that he did, and think that I really admire his organizational skills and everything that he was able to accomplish. I'm very fortunate tonight to have 4 generations of family and friends here. I really do appreciate them making the effort to attend. And that, I think, is emblematic of how I've been blessed, since as long as I can remember. My family, my parents, my sister, were always incredibly supportive of whatever I did, whether it was in sports or school or anything else. Always attending games, no matter where they were, throughout the East, as I went to prep school and then to college. And they couldn't have been more supportive, visible during the good times and the bad times. For that, I am eternally grateful. That spread to teachers and coaches who made an incredible impact on not only me as an athlete, but me as a person. One of the real turning points actually involved my guidance counselor in high school, Ms. Nichols, who in my senior year knew me well enough to suggest at the time a radical and different approach, and that was to defer college for a year and go to prep school for a postgraduate year. Back in '62, '63, that was not the norm, very unusual. And after being initially opposed to it, I made the best decision I could, and it was in college. I met a person in the community of Hanover who eventually turned out to be my boss and mentor. And so all along, I met a person on Birch Meadow skating on the rink who interested me in Dartmouth. And so all along, these people have helped, guided, supported me, and not only made me the person that I am, but blessed me with their relationships over the years. So I think the most important thing I've learned is the importance of family, the importance of people. I want to close by thanking David Malika, whom I introduce as my unofficial brother, and that's a long story that I won't get into. But David suggested that the committee consider my credentials and background, and that is the most meaningful part, that a person like David, whom I respect tremendously, thought enough to take that initiative. So I again thank the committee in general, Jeff in particular, my family and friends for being here, and thank the Hall for all that they do.
With John Meehan from the class of 1963, a long time ago from Reading High School. What was your initial reaction when you found out you've been selected for the Hall of Fame?
Jeff Pierce called me, and I was surprised. It's not something you ever think will happen. You don't plan for something like that. So one was surprise. Two was real happy that a person that I really respect a great deal nominated me, and that meant a great deal. So those are my two reactions, and I'm just really proud to be part of this.
3-sport athlete, football, baseball, hockey. you have a moment or two that you remember the most that highlighted your career?
Yeah, in football, it actually was the first game we ever played as freshmen, and we were really pumped up. The coach had us really high, and we were running down this hill going to the field for the first game I ever played, because we didn't have Pop Warner or anything like that. We're running onto the field, and the first thing I see on the right-hand side is an ambulance. And I said, the coach didn't say anything about an ambulance. In hockey, I think we were part of the program really being developed, and we played in a variety of different places, including the Boston Garden for regular games. We played at BU, and I think there it was just part of building the program. It meant a great deal. And baseball had a lot of tradition. John Pacino had done a lot over the years, and I remember getting some batting instructions from Lenny Murillo, who was a longtime scout for the Cubs, and it really made a difference my last year and a half. He had a couple of tips in batting, and it just carried me through for a good year and a half that made all the difference in the world.
What was it like playing regular season games at the Boston Garden?
Well, you heard a lot of reverberations and a lot of echoing, because then the Garden sat 13,909, and if we had 50 or 75, that was it. Your parents, your sister, so you heard a lot of echoes, but it was great to look up in the rafters and see some of the pennants and all, and so it was very meaningful. Yeah.
John, congratulations.
Thanks very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, John. As I mentioned, the 60s was a great time in the history of Reading High School athletics. It was a great time to be a kid growing up. You had so many people to look up to, and our next inductee is one of those people for me. I had the pleasure of watching Mike Jackson play 3 years of varsity sports, football, baseball, and basketball. It seemed like every time a big play was needed, he would step up, whether it be a big tackle in football, a key free throw in basketball, or that clutch RBI in baseball. Mike was there. To his teammates and his coaches, he was Mr. Everything.
The mid to late 1960s was known as the golden era for three sports star athletes and championship teams at Reading Memorial High School. And during the era, there is no one athlete that epitomized that athletic versatility and winning performance while displaying strong leadership qualities more than the class of 1967's Mike Jackson. Mike deservedly joins his fellow teammates Bill Kelly, Jim Kiley, George Watkins, John Doherty, and Gino Serecchia in the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame. Mike was a 3-year varsity member in football, basketball, and baseball. In his senior year, he was co-captain of the basketball team and captain of the baseball team. During his 9 varsity seasons in the 3 sports combined, Mike was a major contributor to teams that racked up 6 Middlesex League titles, along with 2 Eastern Mass Class A baseball finals and an appearance in the semifinals in Class B in basketball's Tech Tourney. Outside of the playing fields, Jackson achieved the same level of leadership and excellence in his involvement in the school community. He was class president for 2 years and representative to the Boys State Conference while graduating in the top 10% of his class. He was simply described in the class yearbook as Mr. Everything. Jackson was a 2-year starter on the powerhouse football teams of 1964 through 1966, which had a combined record of 23 wins and 2 losses, and won 2 Middlesex League titles. Jackson had a sturdy build at 5'8" and 175 pounds, and served as a fullback blocking for quarterback Bill Kelly, along with contributing as a cornerback on the defensive side of the ball. Though injuries limited his playing time throughout the 3 years, when he was healthy, he was a standout on the field. In his senior year, Jackson returned from a torn meniscus to play his final game on Thanksgiving Day. Mike earned MVP honors from the local scribes by being what his coach John Hollingsworth described as the best player on the field. Jackson ran the ball for 85 yards on just 9 carries, and defensively, he made the biggest play of the day. With Stoneham threatening to tie the score late in the title-deciding game, on a 4th down from the Rockets' 1-yard line, it was Jackson who came up from the defensive backfield and dropped the Spartan runner for a 2-yard loss to help Reading wrap up the win and the league title. In the winter season, Mike was the floor leader from his guard position on basketball teams that progressively topped their prior year records, culminating in a semifinal appearance in the very competitive and renowned postseason tournament known as the Tech Tourney. The 67 team was arguably the most accomplished quintet that Reading boys basketball has ever put on the hardwood, and the first Rocket squad to advance to the Class B semifinals in 20 years. Along the way, the team went 19-4 with only one league loss and defeated two of the premier basketball programs in the state in Melrose and Lexington. Lexington was coached by Rolly Massimino, who would go on to win an NCAA championship at Villanova, and Melrose was coached by former Celtics assistant from the 70s, John Killalay. Reading High first-year coach Bruce McGregor noted that his senior co-captain ran the team's offense while leading the team in assists by feeding top scorers such as Bill Carroll, Bill Kelly, and George Watkins. And according to McGregor, Jackson possessed a driving ability like no one else in the Middlesex League. Those drives to the basket enabled Mike to lead the team in scoring from the free throw line in his senior year. In the league title clinching win in front of a large and raucous visiting crowd from Reading at Lexington's court, Jackson played on a sprained ankle, but according to the Chronicle, scored on two spectacular drives to the hoop, which had been his signature all season. In the Tech Tourney, after advancing past Lexington, Reading bested Boston City Power Cathedral by a score of 66-58, in which the Lawrence Eagle Tribune noted a grand display of ball handling by the Reading co-captain. After competing all year in other sports, in the spring, Jackson took his excellence to another level on the baseball diamond. Always in the middle of the action, it was no surprise that Jackson's position of choice was catcher, where he was dubbed the Iron Duke by the Reading Chronicle. The stocky Jackson not only was the field general perched behind the plate, but offensively batted in the third position, combining to hit for both power and average. In his sophomore year, he was the starting catcher on the Eastern Mass finalist, hitting over 300. In the Eastern Mass semifinals, Jackson had 3 hits in a win over Malden Catholic prior to the team's tough late-inning 6-5 loss to Somerville in the finals. Jackson had an outstanding junior season as he batted .351 with 8 RBI in the regular season and had several standout moments. In a mid-season win over Stoneham that boosted Reading's record to 7-1, Jackson hit a 350-foot home run to left field off Stoneham righty Steve Andrick, which was the first ball ever hit over that section of fence at the 3-year-old Reading High School field. In the Eastern Mass Tournament quarterfinal game versus Lexington, Jackson's one-out triple to deep left center field in the 6th inning was a key hit, and he eventually scored the winning run on a wild pitch in a 2-1 victory. After a semifinal win over Lawrence Central, the Rockets advanced to the Class A finals in the Eastern Massachusetts tournament for the 2nd straight year. In the finals versus Braintree, it was Jackson's defense that helped keep Reading within a run. Jackson thwarted Braintree threats in the 2nd and 3rd innings by throwing out runners attempting to steal, and then late in the game, he stood his ground at home plate, tagging out a runner attempting to score on a throw from Bill Carroll, keeping the deficit at 1-0 before Reading eventually went down to defeat, losing to Weymouth. As a senior, Mike hit .330 and led the team in extra base hits and home runs. However, this year, the team could not get past the 2nd round of the tournament, losing to Weymouth. In Mike's 3 years as the starting catcher, the team won the league title and made the state tournament in all 3 and reached the Class A Eastern Mass Finals twice. Jackson was named to the All-League team in both his junior and senior seasons. Mike was also honored by the Lawrence Eagle Tribune as the recipient of the Fred B. Cole Award for contribution to the game of baseball. The summer after graduation, Jackson moved right from Reading High to be the starting catcher for Reading's entry in the Carlings Intercity League, which was at the time full of older former professional players and considered one of the finest semi-pro baseball leagues in the country. On a team flush with former and future pros, Jackson was a force as an 18-year-old on a team that won their first and only championship that summer, with both Jackson and his high school teammate Bill Kelly playing key roles. Jackson was described in an article from the Reading Chronicle as the young spark plug of the team, both offensively and defensively, in the Townies championship run. Mike attended Bowdoin College, where he was one of only 32 students at the school to be awarded Bowdoin College's alumni-funded scholarship, which was selected by the college's faculty. At Bowdoin, he continued his athletic passion as a 4-year member of both the football and baseball teams. As a freshman running back, he was named top running back in the program and part of a team in his senior year that was 1 point short of an undefeated season. Presently, Mike is self-employed, working in medical instrument distribution. He is still passionate about athletics, competing in triathlons and cycling around the country with his brother Jim. Mike has been married for 32 years to his wife Karen, and they live in Ithaca, New York. They have 3 grown children, Ben, Sarah, and Hannah, all living and working in the Boston area. So it is with great pride that the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame inducts Mike Jackson into the class of 2013.
I am with Mike Jackson, who is being hassled by the peanut gallery, but we'll get through this anyway. What was your initial reaction when you got the call that you had been selected for induction?
Absolutely thrilled. There's just no way to describe it. I'd followed everything since Bill Kelly in 1997, who was, he was the man. And yet I played with Bill, all the time. It was so much fun. We had such wonderful teams. And so when he got inducted, I said, way to go. And I've watched it since and followed it since. And I thought, I'm going to get my turn. And when it happened, absolutely thrilled.
Some of your former teammates are here tonight. I saw Big Mike Pilla and George Watkins, and it's got to be a thrill to see some of those guys who you may not have seen in quite some time.
I haven't seen them in quite some time. And Georgie and I, Georgie is so easy, so gifted, and so easy to be around. We used to, Friday night card games, Mike, we had in his barn with his brother and my brother, and it was a great camaraderie. And it's fabulous to see him.
You played for 3 pretty good coaches in your day, or if not more. John Hollingsworth is one of them. Now, his 74 football team is going in tonight. John will be here. Just your thoughts on getting to see your old coach, the Hall of Famer.
Coach Hollingsworth was, he epitomized class and intelligence on the football field, and he instilled an attitude that you just can't teach. And he was, Kelly and him made a superb pair. He used to oftentimes tape up my body. I mean, my body was always hurting. And he would tape it up, and it was so much fun because he'd engage you and it'd relax you. And I remember my last game, it was a Thanksgiving game, of course, against Stoneham, and he'd been taping my knees and so forth for just week after week after week, and I was not having a great season. And I said, Coach, I don't want this. Don't tape me today. And I got the look, and he said, all right, you sure you want to do this? And I said, yeah, we've got work to do. Don't be taping me. And, that was the way he was. He listened, he taught. He was terrific.
Peter Finn, Bruce McGregor, a couple other guys you played for. Take us through what it was like playing for those 2 gentlemen. They were talented coaches.
Very talented coaches. Peter was the baseball coach, of course. He, great athlete himself, and great knowledge of the game. Young, I think, when he was coaching us, he might have been 30 years old. Sort of the start of a tradition of fabulous baseball teams. And again, he just knew the game. He knew us. He was young enough so that appreciated what he needed to do and what we needed to do. It was a lot of fun to play for him. Bruce McGregor, it was, I think, I'm not sure about this, but I think my senior year, this was his first or second year as a basketball coach. Again, just fit. He fit, and he treated his athletes so well, took us to the Tech Tourney, he was in that league, Mike, as you well know. Rolly Massimino, Killalay, thanks, yeah. Killalay, talent, lots of talent. And McGregor was, he was, again, great attitude, easy to work hard for, and had a lot of success. Of course, it helped to have Georgie Watkins' sweet jump shot from the corner, and it helped to have Bill Kelly on all those teams.
And it helped to have Mike Jackson. Don't underrate what has been a tremendous career. Michael, thanks for spending some time with us. Please welcome Mike Jackson.
This is a wonderful honor. God, it's just wonderful. And as I've said to many people for just about the last year, I think, I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled to get this award. It means so much to me. I should stop there, right? So many of you in this room are aware of the traditions of Reading athletics. The excellence, we've talked a lot about that tonight. The wins, lots of those. The coaches, incredible coaches. And of course, the players, so many, male and female, so wonderful, so tough. It goes without saying. And I'm proud to have been part of that. Very proud to have been part of that. I want to thank the Hall of Fame Board of Directors for this recognition. It means so much to me. There were 3 individuals in this process that really pushed it along, went the extra mile for me. Chick Godfrey, Chicky. My brother, Tom Jackson. And as we've heard so many times tonight, the master, Jeff Pierce. Thank you all so much. Have a good night.
So we jump from the 1960s to the 1970s, into that memorable season in 1974 where our Rockets took the football field. That 74 season was one of firsts and a last. It was the first football team in school history to record 10 regular season wins, and the first to qualify for a Super Bowl. And back then, that was an accomplishment. It wasn't quite so easy. And though the season didn't end the way you all wanted it to on that Saturday on the turf at BC's Alumni Field, it was a memorable day, as it marked the end of a Hall of Fame career of Coach John Hollingsworth.
The 1974 Reading High football team, led by future Hall of Fame coach John Hollingsworth, had high expectations for the team's first Middlesex League title since 1967, after knocking on the door with an 8-1-1 record the prior season. The optimism was duly warranted, as the Reading squad had a quarterback in Tom Dwyer, who already had 2 full seasons under his belt as the starter. There was a wealth of talented returning starters, such as skill position players Ken Hollingsworth, Dave Johnson, Tom Hunt, and defensive lineman Don Rice. The Middlesex League was considered strong from top to bottom and was entering its first year as a Division I league. The Boston Globe may have put some added motivation out there for the Rockets, noting that the league was too strong and balanced for any team to go undefeated, thus most likely eliminating the possibility of a Super Bowl berth coming out of the Middlesex League. The Rockets possessed a two-dimensional offensive attack with record-setting Dwyer throwing downfield to the talented Hollingsworth and Johnson, and having an equally potent weapon in Hunt, who is an elite running back, with the strength to run up the middle and the speed to break away on long jaunts. Reading could also claim a third offensive dimension, which would end up playing a big role in a comeback win later in its undefeated regular season, and that was the leg of Ken Hollingsworth, who had deep field goal range, and later became a place kicker and record-holding receiver at Williams College. In a league traditionally stocked with good running backs, it was the quality of the offensive lines and defenses that often decided championships, and the Rockets were well positioned in that regard player-wise, and with the leadership of veteran offensive coach Paul Soule and defensive coach Jack White. Steve Gary, Tim Sharkey, Mike Iannelli, John Atwood, and Mike Schloth were stalwarts on both sides of the ball, joining Steve Mantilla and Kevin LaRocco on the offensive line. On defense, it was the two-way warriors along with Rice, Tom Radisick, Mark Kirby, and Norm Black in the front seven, with the athletic secondary of Jim Shiner, Tom McCarron, Johnson, and Hollingsworth. For the regular season, the defense held the opposition to 74 points and gave up more than one touchdown in a game only 3 times, and never more than 2 in a game. The Rockets opened against Marblehead in their lone out-of-league contest. In the 46-6 win, there were immediate signs of the offensive and defensive capabilities of the Reading team. Up next was the start of the grueling 9-game league schedule, starting with the 2 teams most favored to win the league crown in Woburn and Wakefield. Before a packed house at Birch Meadow Field, Reading faced a heavily favored Woburn team who sported a very big physical advantage on paper and a heralded running back in Joe Shula. As the team battled it out, it was quickly evident that no team was superior to the Rockets when it came to physical play. The Rockets bested Woburn all day in the trenches, gaining an 18-8 first down advantage. However, as the game wound down, that advantage was not reflected on the scoreboard when Shula's touchdown gave the Tanners an 11-7 lead with just 2.5 minutes left. What followed the Woburn score can simply be called the drive. Starting from his own 20-yard line, Dwyer completed 5 straight passes as they led the Rockets deliberately downfield. Then from the 5-yard line, and with only 30 seconds left, it was Hunt who carried the ball into the end zone, giving Reading a 14-11 victory. Defending league champ Wakefield was next in a road contest, and with a 4-touchdown first-half outburst, the Rockets held off the Warriors 28-16. After a routine win versus Winchester, the Rockets eked out a win in Watertown behind Hunt's career day. The bruising halfback ran for 186 yards and added a 62-yard punt return in a 19-13 victory. Sandwiched between blowout wins versus Melrose and Lexington, Burlington put an unexpected scare into the Rockets at home. On this afternoon, it was Hollingsworth's leg that provided the difference when he booted a 26-yard field goal through the uprights with under 5 minutes left to play, giving the Rockets a 16-14 victory. It all led up to an unexpected showdown at Belmont High School between 2 8-0 teams. Preseason predictions had the Rockets in the title hunt, but the Marauders were expected to be fighting to stay out of the cellar. In a defensive showdown, Reading went up 14-0 in the fourth quarter when an opportunistic Hunt recovered a teammate's end zone fumble. Belmont battled back furiously, cutting the lead in half and then recovering a botched punt on Reading's 20-yard line with only 30 seconds left. However, future BC Eagle Dave Johnson picked off an end zone pass to seal the victory, his second interception of the day. Reading entered the Thanksgiving Day contest with not only a shot at the Middlesex League title, but a Super Bowl berth for the Division I Super Bowl. 2 years earlier on the same field, the Spartans had deprived Reading of a title share and won the Middlesex League crown themselves. But not on this day. With Stoneham focused on stopping Hunt, it was unsung blocking back B.J. O'Brien who ran for 60 yards on 10 carries. It was also fitting that a defensive player earned some recognition when Don Rice was awarded an honorable mention as the Boston Globe's Defensive Player of the Week behind future All-Pro Fred Smirlis from Waltham. The 20-0 victory sent the Rockets to the postseason with a 10-0 record in the Middlesex League title. In the Super Bowl, Reading faced off with once-beaten Natick, the undefeated Rockets stood clearly as the #1 team in Eastern Mass as top seed in Division I Super Bowl. Early signs were ominous for the Rockets, from the wind blowing the opening kickoff off the tee to losing their stalwart running back Hunt on their 4th offensive play with an ankle injury. Then Natick proceeded to blitz Reading during a 6-minute span for an early 20-0 lead before the Rockets could get their bearings at BC's Alumni Stadium. Reading would not go down easily, as it trailed for one of the few times all year. A Dwyer to Hollingsworth 53-yard touchdown strike right before the half started the momentum swing. After a scoreless third quarter, it was Reading's special teams that put the Rockets within a touchdown of the lead. When Don Rice blocked the field goal attempt, Barry Knox scooped up the loose ball and ran 68 yards down the right sideline, making it a 20-14 contest. However, a late Redmen touchdown ended the comeback for Reading in a season-ending 26-14 Super Bowl loss. At season's end, Hollingsworth, Hunt, Johnson, and Rice received all-league honors, and Dwyer's 3-year reign ended with a then school-record 28 career touchdown passes. Hollingsworth was named All-Scholastic at wide receiver in both the Boston Globe and Boston Herald newspapers. To go along with an undefeated regular season and Middlesex League title, the 1974 Rockets will always have the special distinction of being Reading's first Super Bowl team and the only Rocket team ever to qualify for a Super Bowl at the Division I level. It is with great pride the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame welcomes the 1974 football team.
I am here with 2 of the 3 captains of the 1974 football team. Don Rice to my right, Ken Hollingsworth to my left. Let's start with you, Ken. That season, obviously memorable for a lot of reasons, but very special for the Hollingsworth family. It marked the end of your dad's career. So what did it mean to you going into those final few weeks knowing that this could be your dad's last run?
It was great. You know, my dad was, Mike, the best coach I ever played for. And I'm sure he'd be the first one to tell you that our relationship with the players was very different because they were not only players on his team, but they were also players whose friends were his son. So they'd be over the house and things like that. And, you know, I'm glad that it ended not the way we quite wanted, but it was just a great season. Great season.
Coming into that season, Don, it was not Reading at the top of the league. No one expected you guys to make a run like that. So what was the attitude coming in, and when did you guys realize, hey, you know what, we got a chance to really do something special here?
We had played together from freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and we had had some success at sophomore, freshman levels. And we had a tight bunch of guys. We weren't a team where we had just a couple of leaders. I think everybody was a leader, and the team, the camaraderie and the friendships between the players, it's been unmatched. And I think we knew right from the beginning that we had a shot at it. It wasn't, you read the things in the papers and who cares? You know, it just gave Coach more stuff to put on the bulletin boards in the locker room, which if you ever heard of those or seen those signs, it's legendary and got us fired up, and the rest is history.
You were involved in arguably one of, if not the most memorable play in school history. A blocked field goal against Natick that you made Barry Knox famous. Take us through what went on in that play, because it is a play of legend.
I don't know how legendary it is, and the memory's a little foggy at this point. I just remember going through, sticking my hand up, the ball hitting it, Barry picking it up and running like heck, and just thinking, geez, we're back in this thing, because before that point, up to that point, we were down a little bit with injuries to primarily to Tommy Hunt, and it was nice to feel we had a shot to get back in it. And that's when Kenny, you had a long reception at that point too, and you know, almost made a game of it. But it was a bright moment, because that was the type of thing that we were able to do all year. And when we really got down or behind the 8 ball, something like that good happened, and we really felt it was going to carry on past that. Unfortunately, it didn't.
Tom, you had a very Ken, you had a very special relationship with your quarterback, Tom Dwyer. Back in the days when teams didn't throw the ball a real lot, you guys seemed to be on the cutting edge of getting a passing offense going. So take us through what it was like working with him.
He's a great quarterback. You know, he did. He threw the ball. He was ahead of his time. But, you know, we were friends for a long time, and had a great opportunity as we were younger, just throwing the ball. And so when I ever did get the chance to get up with him, it was great. You know, we just seemed to know what each other was going to do. So it was fun. It was really a lot of fun.
It was fun then. It will be fun tonight. Thanks, Tony. Ken?
Oh, Mike, this is a great night. Thank you.
It will be a great night, so thanks,
Great.
gentlemen.
Thanks a lot. Thank
I'd
you.
like to introduce the captains of the 74 team, Tom Dwyer, Don Rice, Ken Hollingsworth, and the other half of the Hall of Fame Hollingsworth, the coach, John Hollingsworth. Gentlemen?
Let me defer it to the boss. Okay.
I saw John Fiore in here a little while ago, and I couldn't help but realize, John, I never told you how lucky you were to be playing on that artificial surface of yours. The 74 team, their practice field was, didn't have a blade of grass on it. It was dirt from goal line to goal line. And I can remember talking to a ranking fire department official, and I said, can't you come down and water that field, you know, it's a health hazard. These kids are swallowing dust 2 hours a day. He said, you know, we can't do that, coach. Unless there's a fire. Wouldn't you know? 2 nights later, there was a fire in the middle of our practice dirt field. And I was the first one that saw the blaze. So I did my civic duty by going in and calling the fire department. And sure enough, the fire trucks came and they put out the blaze. And to prevent the fire from spreading on the rest of that dirt field, they sprayed all the surrounding areas. And it was much better after that. But this team is so special. They worked so hard. They played so hard. I never had to do any discipline on this team because either the captains or a player would come to me and say, Coach, don't worry, the problem's all taken care of. It'll never happen again. So we had great leadership in the captains. We had terrific assistant coaches in Paul Soul and Jack White. And this team deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Just very quickly, it is great. My name is Ken Hollingsworth, and it's great to be here. This is a fantastic crowd, a fantastic night. Ricky Carter made reference to it earlier in the night, but it is such a thrill for the Hollingsworth family, and I know so many of you out there, the fact that we have John Hollingsworth football field. So I'd like to give him a nice round of applause right here. Boy, that's
It's your only opportunity, Don.
I don't want to blow it.
I know you're going to ask him. You may be the only doctor I know that doesn't like to talk. At this time, I'd like to ask the remaining members of the 74 team in attendance tonight to make their way to the podium, be recognized, and receive their commemorative award. Gentlemen.
I'd like to recognize each individual person here. Again, all of us have been so thrilled to be over there at those tables. Tom Dwyer. What's your name again? B.J. O'Brien, Tim Sharkey, Tommy Hunt, Steve Gary, Tommy Radisek, Jimmy Shiner, Dave Kaloris, Mark Kirby, and Donnie Rice. So congratulations to all those guys.
Back in the day, the football team would have their season-ending banquet. And fans would attend just to hear John Hollingsworth do what he did tonight, just tell story after story after story. It was worth going just to hear Coach at the microphone. It was vintage again this evening. By round of applause, how many people were in attendance at the Belmont game in 1974? Anybody? Joe Finnegan was there, but he was on the Belmont side. He was on the losing team, was that Joe? Quick story about that 74 game, for those of you who are not familiar with Harris Field. Very small stands at Harris Field, probably about 10 or 12 rows, not a lot of them. So the crowd started to gather literally like 2 hours before the game. When we got there, the gates closed. So we were all waiting, milling around. It opens up, and it is a rush to judgment to grab your little space. So we're standing around, waiting for the game to take place. Pre-game warm-ups haven't started, and the fans getting a little anxious. This Belmont team's pretty good. We're pretty good. League title on the line. Maybe we can go to the Super Bowl. And all of a sudden, some doubt starts to creep in. And there's a set of railroad tracks that run past the field. And there's a rumbling, and the crowd looks up collectively, and a train goes by. On the side of one of the freight cars is written the word Reading. And we knew it was a sign from the football gods that every little thing was going to be all right. And I just wish we had brought that train with us to BC. But thank you, gentlemen. That was, this is what it's all about, to see the camaraderie again. So thank you so much. I know Tom came all the way up from Florida. It's great to see you again, Tommy. I talked a little while ago about the 1960s, that golden age of Reading High School athletics. Well, history repeated itself 30 years later. In the 1990s, we took off again, and it actually hasn't stopped since. Seems like every team took its chance, took its opportunity at the top of the Middlesex League standings. Well, it's no coincidence that Phil Vaccaro was the athletic director during that time. Under his leadership and guidance, we put a lot of banners in the Hawks Fieldhouse. I can't tell you how many Middlesex League championships we won. A state championship in baseball, softball, swimming, Super Bowl titles, won a hockey tournament. We won that, the first public school ever. A lot of banners. But I'll tell you right now, those aren't the banners that Phil Vaccaro is the most proud of. Phil has a saying, you may have heard it, sportsmanship the winning point. It echoes in the minds of the players and coaches and fans. If you look at the banners of the Hawks Fieldhouse, list the number of teams that won that MIAA Sportsmanship Award. That's the one Phil's proud of. And those 10 scholar athletes that walked the halls at Reading High School, that's the banner Phil's most proud of. Phil also has another saying, and I debate with him on this. Talent is overrated. Mr. Vaccaro, you have an abundance of talent that could never be overrated. Sports Zone 101 congratulates Phil Vaccaro on an outstanding career as an educator, soccer coach, and athletic director. Thank you for your commitment to the players, coaches, and teams of RMHS. Where would Reading Athletics be without
the Godfather. Long before Phil Vaccaro became the well-renowned athletic director at RMHS for 18 years, Vaccaro was the boys' varsity soccer coach and a math teacher at Somerville High School for 11 years. Then in 1981, Phil made the decision to move to Reading and become the school's boys' varsity soccer coach, as well as a math teacher. Vaccaro took a program in its infancy and slowly built it into a strong program throughout the 1980s and early 90s. The Rockets soon became very competitive in the Middlesex League under Vaccaro and were just about permanent fixtures in the state tournament. With the boys' soccer program on solid footing in the mid-1990s, Vaccaro was faced with a career-changing decision. In 1994, then Reading High Athletic Director Jack White announced his retirement. Phil applied for the position, and that summer he found out he was the school's new athletic director. As AD, Phil could no longer coach the boys' varsity soccer team, and no longer would he be able to coach his son, Craig, in his senior season. According to Vaccaro, the hardest part of accepting the job came when he introduced the new soccer coach to the team, turned his back, and walked away. But knowing the talents of the person he introduced eased the pain somewhat. Vaccaro hired Leo Figueredo, a former star player under Vaccaro at Somerville High School, to coach the Reading High boys soccer team. Vaccaro claimed he was looking for a coach accomplished in the sport and one whom the kids could respect. In 1994, the Reading boys soccer team went on to have a Hall of Fame season, winning the Middlesex League title and reaching the Division II North Sectional Final, finishing the season with a record of 17 wins, 1 loss, and 4 ties, as Vaccaro looked on like a proud father. Throughout his professional career, Phil has been actively involved at the local, state, and national level. He has served the Middlesex League as both its secretary and treasurer, and District B as secretary and president. At the state level, he served on the MIAA Sportsmanship Committee for 18 years. He has been on the MIAA Soccer Committee for 18 years and the MIAA Games Officials Committee for 10 years. Phil also served on the Massachusetts Secondary School Athletic Directors Association Executive Board and is also the MSS-ADA First Vice President. He attends the MS-ADA and NIAAA annual conferences regularly and has been a presenter and moderator on several occasions. Phil was recognized as the 2008-2009 MS-ADA Athletic Director of the Year. In addition to this honor, he has received the MS-ADA Ted Damko Award in 1999, the MIAA Distinguished Service Award in 2005, the MS-ADA President's Award of Merit in 2006, and the MS-ADA District B Athletic Director of the Year in 2008. Along with being the founder of the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame and being a certified Master Athletic Administrator, Phil was also the recipient of other prominent awards throughout his career. In 2009, Phil received a special award as he was selected as the Massachusetts State Athletic Director of the Year. In 2010, Vaccaro would be recognized throughout the country as a finalist for the National Athletic Director of the Year. RMHS was well represented in awards as a school through Phil's tenure as Athletic Director. Reading won the District B Sportsmanship Award 7 times. 8 athletes were selected as Boston Globe Academic All-Scholastics under Phil's guidance. Other awards include 18 years of each sports team receiving a gold or silver academic award for their excellence in education, and 3 state sportsmanship videos that represented first place awards with the MIAA. Through many roles and honors received, Phil Vaccaro has always kept sportsmanship as his top priority. He is known to promote the values of integrity and respect in all that he does. One of his greatest contributions has been his services as a member of the MIAA Sportsmanship Committee for 17 years, including 10 years as committee chair. Coaches and colleagues have always had positive things to say about Phil Vaccaro's work. Robert Mooney, a colleague of Phil's at Reading High, says over the course of his tenure as athletic director at Reading, Phil worked to create a positive, inclusive atmosphere. He has helped offer opportunities to students who otherwise would not have had an athletic outlet. He has worked to increase the opportunities for female athletes and has done a great deal to promote female sports and ensure they are treated equally. Pete Moscarello, former department head of mathematics and varsity baseball coach at RMHS, said, "I think it's no coincidence that Reading Athletics has been on such a high note. Sure, there are great athletes and great coaches, but we also had a great athletic director." Phil received the William N. Gain Jr. Sportsmanship Award for his distinguished leadership in the promotion of sportsmanship throughout interscholastic athletics. Though Phil is no longer the director of athletics at Reading High, his legacy, passion, devotion, and love of student and athletics will never be forgotten. Phil currently works for the MIAA and is the co-athletic director at Linfield High School. Sportsmanship, the winning point, is the model that Phil lives by daily. Whether instructing coaches' education courses, facilitating workshop sessions, or chairing committee meetings, Phil constantly emphasizes the lifelong and life quality values learned through educational athletic participation. Phil resides in Reading with his lovely wife of 42 years, Dottie. They have 3 grown children, Tara, Craig, and Philip, and 3 grandchildren. The Reading High Athletic Hall of Fame proudly inducts Phil Vaccaro into the class of 2013.
I'm here with the man known as the Godfather, Phil Vaccaro. So Phil, tell me, what was the thought that ran through your head when you got the call that you had been selected for induction?
There were a lot of things that went through my mind. The first thing was that the people that I associated with through all those years, whether I was coaching, athletic director, or just a math teacher, that how I missed them already, and this night will give me a chance to see them all again, and to be up on that wall at the place that I called my home for so many years it's an unbelievable feeling. I never thought I'd be so emotional about it.
Now you're going in with the class, a lot of people you don't know, but there are 2 young people going in tonight that were there under your guidance and leadership, and Courtney Campbell and Steve Gath. What does it mean to go in with those 2 people?
It's perfect. You know why? Because they are the representative, the male and female representative of everything we try to preach over the years. Sportsmanship, character, ethics, do the right thing, be a good person. Courtney's a fabulous young lady, as is Steve Gath. They were equally great as people as they are as athletes, and they couldn't have picked a better representative to come in and be part of the era that, and the values that I try to preach over those years. So I'm really excited about it. I hope they are too, by the way.
Oh, they are. They're very happy to be here with this group. When you started in the 90s, Reading was coming out of a slow period in athletics, and all of a sudden we hit a crescendo and things just took off from there. What was the game plan going in? How you were going to try and help turn this thing around?
Do things right. That was my first goal, is, we're going to get back to basics. It's going to be character, values, do the right thing, and you'll get positive results. You can't take shortcuts, you can't cheat, you can't, you can't take shortcuts in life, and as long as you're doing the right thing. But the biggest advantage that I had is I had the most unbelievable coaching staff. We didn't have really a weak link, and I try to treat my job as an athletic director as I did as a coach. As a coach, I felt that I was a mistake finder, and then you try to help an athlete become a better athlete, whether it's technically or tactically. And I felt as an athletic director that was my job to try to help a coach become a better coach by doing what's right. And you can use cliches all day long about doing what's right, but the great John Wooden, that was his theory. Winning is a byproduct of doing what's right, and I think that they bought into it, and we had some unbelievable years, as you know, winning the Dalton, the Ames Award a few times. But also is that the Sportsmanship Awards is what really, we had an unbelievable run. We won over 35. There was nobody even close to us in the state. We won over 35 individual team sportsmanship awards, and that was all a result of doing the right thing.
Well, Phil, it's well earned.
I so much appreciate it, Mike.
It's going to be a great night, so sit back and enjoy. You've done the hard part. This is the easy part.
Thank you so
Congratulations.
much. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Godfather, Phil Vaccaro.
I can't hold the mic because I'm Italian. I have to talk with my hands, so if I hold the mic. The good news is I didn't write a speech. The bad news is I didn't write a speech. You think Rick Carter was long? Put your seatbelts on, my friends. First, I'd like to thank the committee. You people have been fabulous from day one. I never thought I'd be up here, to be honest. Just a little kid from Somerville, a gym rat, and life took its path, and here I am. I'd like to acknowledge my lovely family here, my beautiful kids, their spouses. Why isn't the plural of spouse spice? Really? I don't know. It's mouse and mice. I don't know. My brother, his wife, and my niece and nephews, and some people are very special to me. Harry Aratunian, who once called me down in his office and said, "You want to be a good athletic director, or do you want to be a great athletic director? If you want to be a great athletic director, here's what we need to do." The person I'm most grateful to in my professional career is Rena Merkin. She had the faith in me to do a job that I didn't know if I could do it myself. Rena and her husband, Howard, are here, and Rena, having you, Harry, Joe Finnegan here today really makes my day. Thank you so much. To all the wonderful coaches that I had working for me, Mike started a phrase, but he didn't finish it. Yes, talent is overrated, but you win with character. And that was the part of the message that I needed to get out to my coaches. I said to Mike before the night began that I still found myself being a coach when I was an athletic director, because as a coach, you're a mistake finder. You find mistakes and you go try to make your team better. As an athletic director, I try to make my coaches better. Sometimes we agreed, sometimes we disagreed. But when we walked away from each other, we were on the same page. I try to promote values throughout my career because it started with mom and dad. To this day, my mother, can I tell Ma? My father and mother are going to be 90 years old, and I call her on the phone, and the last thing she always says to me is, "I love you." So I love you too. I don't know why I missed my wife, my daughter, my son-in-law, little Juliet, my first grandchild. I never take a mic without giving a message, and please listen to my message, because I just made it up. They talk about values. You know, I go to the store and you see on these magazine covers, you'll see Oprah Winfrey, all these rich people, Warren Buffett, Tiger Woods. They're on the magazine because they have monetary value. They are very rich people. And people like to find out, wow, what made them so rich and what do they do with their time and their money. But then there's the human values, the ones that we teach every day, the human values that we teach, that are not learned in the classroom, but that are learned on the athletic venue. That's the magazine I want to see. I want to see the human values. I want to see who's on the cover of that. Who's on the cover of my magazine? Mom and Dad, you're on my cover. My wife's on my cover. My kids are on my cover. My grandkids, my kids' spouse. Spice. My nephews, my nieces, my sister, my brother. Harry, you're there. Joe Finnegan, you're there. Frank Orlando's not here, he's there. Rena, front and center. All my coaches, John, Dave, Jim, Jeff, Erica, my trainer, Michelle, you're all there. Pete, Mark, whoever else is here. Tom Zaya, who took over my job. And Tom, if you ever want to give it up, I'm coming back. The Moscarellos. You're on my magazine. You're on the front cover of my magazine because those are the values that count in life. Those values, by the way, are not mutually exclusive. You can have a lot of money in your life and still be a philanthropist like Mr. Burbank, like the Buffetts. They pledged a half of their wealth to the needy. So when the day is done, who's on the cover of your magazine? If you want to be on the cover of somebody else's magazine, you better learn to live your life a little backwards. If I want to be a great athletic director, I cannot say, I'm going to be a great athletic director. I got to get to the end of my career and say, what do I want people to say about Phil Vaccaro? What do people want to say he accomplished in his life? So I have to work backwards and say, I need to be a good person. I have to have good values. Talent is overrated. You win with character. I have to show my athletes that. Sportsmanship is the winning point. I have to show my athletes that. What makes great coaches? They live their lives a little backwards. I want to be a great coach. How do I do that? How do I be a great coach? I be a great coach by every day giving everything I have. You cannot have a bad day, coaches. You cannot have a bad day. Because everybody is in there watching you, evaluating you, second-guessing you, triple-guessing you, and want to fire you. So you cannot have a bad day. So I ask the younger ones in here to live your life a little backwards. Say, what do I want out of life? And here's how I'm going to get there. Harry showed me the way. Rena showed me the way. Joe, you showed me the way. Frank Orlando, you showed me the way. Leo Figueredo, he showed me the way. And of course, it all started with Mom and Dad. I want Rick to be the longest speaker here, so I may cut it a little short. Rick, that was the great filibuster of all times. I still have 5 minutes? Oh, okay. So, in closing, I need to tell you how much the community of Reading means to me, how much my family means to me. A little skinny kid out of Somerville who was a gym rat, never great at anything, but I always had the desire to, whatever life had in front of me, I was going to tackle it the best I could. Look at this little size right here. Who could that person hurt? But as we always used to say, Tom Zaya, my former soccer, and you know, my former soccer players here beside my own two boys. Look at them. We always used to say it's not the size of the fight in the dog. I'm sorry, the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. So, I leave you with my last thought. Who do you want on the cover of your magazine, and whose magazine do you want to be on? Congratulations to all the award winners, all you people. I truly love you all. I never would have got here without the great parents, athletes, coaches, and friendship in my administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Committee also wants to thank Nick Face, Sports Zone 101, for sponsoring that video. So we get to hop into the 80s. And our next inductee was one of the most underappreciated great athletes during her era. As a basketball player, Janice Coates had tremendous offensive skills. But in her senior season, she was asked to take a different role, not to score, but to distribute. She accepted that role, and she excelled at it. On the softball field, she was part of a program over a 2-year span that went 46-3. She was a key member of the 1986 team that won the first state title in the history of the girls' softball program.
In the 1980s, athletes were not as actively involved in AAU and other travel sports programs as they are today. Take the case of Janice Coates, who turned out just fine as a two-sport, two-time Middlesex League All-Star, despite getting a late start on both sports. Coates proved to be outstanding in both basketball and softball, and this was a byproduct of her amazing athletic adaptability. She had an knack to catch on quickly to sports she hadn't played very long, and to play them very well. As a guard and forward on the Reading High girls varsity basketball team for 4 seasons, Janice only started playing basketball in the 8th grade. As she progressed through high school, Janice attended the 5-star women's basketball camp at Boston University and the Wayne Embry camp. She also played in the Bay State games during her junior and senior seasons. This experience helped solidify her as the leading scorer in both her junior and senior years at RMHS. She scored 101 points during her freshman year, and then was the 3rd leading scorer in her sophomore year, averaging 9.1 points per game when the Rockets went 12-8. During her junior year in 1984-85, teaming with Caroline Flagg in the backcourt, they formed a dynamic duo averaging 8 steals per game. Coates became a prolific scorer thanks to a combination of size and fine athleticism. She averaged 15.2 points per game and 8.8 rebounds in her junior year for a Reading team that went 10-10. Her efforts earned her her first of 4 overall Middlesex League All-Star selections. With Flagg having graduated, head coach Ted Bryson had no other choice but to move Janice to point guard for the 1985-86 season for her ball handling ability. As a shooting forward, or off guard up to that point, Coates accepted the new role well. Reading's basketball fortunes teetered around 500 for most of the year. When the Rockets were successful, it was mostly due to Janice.
Janice Coates tries to go baseline. The shot is up and good. Now Janice Coates with it in traffic. Nice pass over to Kelly Fallon. Banks it up and in.
In a tight 38-35 win over Wakefield in Game 5, Reading trailed entering the 4th quarter, but Coates led the comeback charge, and her clutch free throws late in the game finished her night with 13 points, but more importantly, sealed the win. Janice was a fixture, scoring double figures, and oftentimes had impressive game statistics like her 15-point, 6-rebound, 3-assist performance in a 43-31 win at Winchester. Sitting at 5-5 just past mid-season, Janice led a huge revenge victory at Lexington. She had 18 points and was practically unguardable. Of Janice's 18 points in the 55-43 win, 16 came from the free throw line. Coates had another big game against Watertown that saw her often at the free throw line. She had 19 in a 38-33 win and connected on 9 of her 11 free throw attempts. More critical in the win, according to head coach Ted Bryson, was Janice's ball handling against the Watertown defense in breaking down the press and creating offense for herself and her teammates. As a result of that game, the Daily Times Chronicle named Janice its Rockette of the Week for one of the many times she'd been selected for that honor. Coates and the Rockets closed out their season with a loss to league champion Burlington, in which Janice scored 18, and then a win at Stoneham, where she closed out her career with 11 points. Reading finished the campaign at 9-9. Coates received Middlesex League All-Star honors for the 2nd straight year as she finished her RMHS girls basketball career with 813 points. Very impressive during a period that was played prior to the 3-point arc.
Murphy in trouble. Intercepted by Coates. Up and in. Quick 2 for the Rockettes.
Again, showing her amazing athletic adaptability, she quickly excelled in softball. Janice first went out for the sport her freshman year and ended up starting on the varsity as a sophomore. She caught on fast as she batted .419 during that sophomore year while helping the Rockets to a Middlesex League title in the spring of 1984. In '85, the Reading softball program went on an unprecedented 2-year run. Not only did the Rockets win the Middlesex League title in each of those 2 years, but also won back-to-back Division I North Sectional titles and capped it off with a D1 state softball title in '86. Janice, along with RMHS Hall of Famers Kim O'Riordan and Beth Moxie, was at the forefront of those achievements. A solid left-handed hitter with power to all fields, Coates became a fixture at the top of the batting order for the Rockets in those 2 special seasons. Oftentimes the offense was ignited by leadoff hitter Janice Coates getting on base with a slap base hit that she could beat out with her speed. Then she would steal a key base to get herself in scoring position. Other times, she'd rocket a ball into the gap for a big triple and was constantly scoring runs for her team. In center field, she was very solid and could utilize her speed to track down fly balls with relative ease. She also filled in quite capably at times at shortstop. With Reading looking to go unbeaten for the regular season in '85, Janice led her team to 3 late-season victories over Winchester, Watertown, and Burlington, where she went a combined 7 for 10 at the plate and helped Reading wrap up the Middlesex League with still 3 games to go. No one figured the tournament was going to be a cakewalk for the Rockets, but it started impressively enough with a 7-1 win at home against Boston Latin in the first round. It was not going to be quite so easy in the quarterfinals against Lexington. Trailing the rival Minute Maid 7-5 and down to its last at bat, Reading staged a rally. Chris Bartlett and Janice both started the bottom of the 7th by getting on base, and this set up Lisa Stamagma's dramatic game-winning 3-run homer. The 11-9 semifinal win against Arlington was also met with more challenges, as the Rockets had to come from behind twice before securing the win. Coates went 3 for 5 against Arlington and was hitting 8 for 14 in her 3 tournament games. In the Division I North Sectional Final, Reading was again down to its last at bat, trailing Lawrence by a run. But with runners on second and third and no outs, Janice delivered. She lifted a fly ball to left field that was caught. Base runner Heather Gale broke from third base. The throw from the outfield sailed wildly to home plate. Not only did Gale score, but Bartlett, who was on second base, also came in, and Reading had another dramatic win and a sectional title. But the unbeaten season came to an end in the Eastern Mass title game as Durfee pitcher Ann Gibbons doused the Rockets in a 4-1 win for Durfee. Reading ended the season 24 wins and 1 loss. In 1986, with fixtures like Coates and O'Riordan, Reading would be right there again in the Middlesex League and right there in the state title picture. Reading jumped out fast on opponents in the '86 season. In its first 4 games, Reading won by 11 runs or more and 3 times put up 22 runs or more. Even though Reading would see a 33-game regular season winning streak end in the second meeting with Melrose, it was still fixed on the long-term goal of the tournament. Players like Janice Coates were there to pull the team through the tough times during the season. In a key mid-season win over Stoneham, Reading bounced back from the Melrose loss as Coates led the Rockets to a 3-1 win with a perfect 3-for-3 day at the plate. This allowed Reading to gain a share of first place and help raise Janice's average to an even 400 at mid-season. Other highlights for Coates as the season wore on in the second half were an opposite field home run to left center against Woburn and helping start the winning rally in the top of the 7th to win the second game against Stoneham. And by defeating Stoneham on the last day of the regular season, the Rockets were able to retain a share of the Middlesex League title, providing them with needed momentum for the tournament. There was less drama in the 1986 playoff run than the year before, as this led Reading to its first ever Division I state softball title. The Rockets rolled past Peabody 16-2 in their first tournament game and blanked Pope John 4-0. Janice stole 3 bases and laced a double in the win over Pope John. A 5-3 win over Lawrence and subsequent identical 7-2 victories over Chelmsford and Dartmouth in the sectional title and Eastern Mass title games respectively booked a date with Springfield Cathedral in the state title game at North Grafton's Hubbard Field. Again led by Coates and O'Riordan, the Rockets blasted their way to a 7-3 victory and a championship. Quite a way for Janice to wrap up her Reading High athletic career. Janice was named a second time to the Middlesex League Softball All-Star team. She entered her softball career with a .417 batting average to go along with being a member of 3 state Middlesex League championship teams, 2 straight Division I North Sectional champions, and a member of Reading's first state championship softball team that posted a final record of 24-2. Not bad for someone who did not pick up the sport until her freshman year. So it is with great pride that the Reading Memorial High School Athletic Hall of Fame inducts Janice Coates into the class of 2013.
I'm with Janice Coates from the class of 1986, and I just wanted to know, what was your initial reaction when you got the call that you had been selected for induction?
Sure, because when I looked at the caller ID, I saw Bryson, and I'm like, Bryson, and I answered it, and it kind of, I don't know, immediately puts you back when you were back in high school, and you're like, oh, and it's never Ted Bryson, it's still Mr. Bryson, and then it was a complete and utter shock, and very much an honor. I was very shocked, and it was very nice to, that he delivered the news. That was very, very special.
For those who don't know, Ace, as we call him, was your high school
Ace,
basketball coach. So take us back to a few moments from your days as a player for Ace and your days at softball.
Well, obviously with Ace, I started playing with him as a freshman, and he kind of really he took me under his wing, but yet he was. I remember one time, I wasn't having a very good game, and at halftime he looked at me and he said, "Freshman or no freshman, you're in varsity now, and you better stop playing like it." And I'm, all right, okay, Mr. Bryson, all right. But my best moments are not necessarily the moments on the court. It was off the court in the locker room, or sleepovers that we had, and the bonds that I really formed with Caroline Flagg, Amy Diamond, Debbie Grunswick. I could go on. And obviously when it comes to softball, the big one was, and that one was on the field, was the championship in '86. Coming back from having 9 seniors graduate from my year before, and really having no expectations, and knowing no one thinking we could do anything, to really winning the championship, that was very special.
Take us through that '85 year, because that team was probably underrated.
Oh, well, I don't think we could have been underrated. We had Channel 4 at our practices at the end of the year. We were ranked number 1 from the get-go. If you look, the Boston Globe used to just do the top 5 or 6 batters. We had the top 7 in the entire league, and if you go down position by position, we were ranked number 1 or 2 at all of our positions. And some people like Debbie Sawyer, our catcher, I think kind of got, because there was so many of us already at number 1, they gave someone else the number 1 catcher, whereas I really think she was the better one. So, you could almost look down, and we had, the best Kim O'Riordan. How can, you can't get a better pitcher than that. And that season was very, very special. But, I think in the long run, we got a little cocky. We used to just go, wow, I guess, we need to start really trying now. And I think we just kind of, we got too good. And sometimes we believed, I think, a little bit too much of the hype, and also there was a lot of pressure. And come that next year, I think it was 3 games into, I'll never forget this, it was like the 3rd game into the playoffs, and I looked over at Kim O'Riordan and I go, wow, we could really win this thing. And she went, yeah, but until that time, it never even occurred to me, unlike the season before when the expectations were from day one that we were supposed to win. So, but great seasons, great all around, and great friends. I couldn't ask for any better.
Well, congratulations on a tremendous career.
Thank you.
I'm honored to present Janice Coates.
Well, I prepared a speech tonight, and after watching and hearing everyone, that pretty much goes right out the window. So again, first I want to start off by thanking, as many of us have, the selection committee. The amount of work that has gone into these presentations, I'm amazed. I lived it. And I didn't know most of these stats, so it was pretty amazing for me. I'm like, wow, I was watching the first ones, and I'm like, they never asked me any questions. So I don't know where they'd get all this information, but obviously they did their homework. And again, I appreciate everyone. Jeff, I know everyone here. Mr. Bryson, thank you so much for everything that they have done. It's a lot of work, and I appreciate it. Again, and second, I'd like to thank my family for attending tonight. My most wonderful husband, Daniel, thank you so much for everything, and for our 2 beautiful boys, Ben and Sam. I couldn't do it without you guys. my sister who came tonight with her husband and her 2 children, Hannah and Matt, thank you again. My brother, my godfather who came. And I guess I have to end up with thanking Mom, who has came to every game in high school. Didn't necessarily know what she was talking about when she came to the games, because she'd be like, get a goal, in basketball, you know. I'm like, Mom, no, it's a basket. Oh, okay. You know, stop walking. No, it's traveling, Mom. So, Mom, and and in college when she could, if, we weren't traveling 6 hours up to St. Mike's or something, she came to all my college games too that they could attend. So again, my family has made me who I am. So, first and foremost, I want to thank them all for attending tonight. When I was trying to come up with a speech and trying to write it down, I thought it was ironic that I was at my son's basketball practice, and I'm sitting around, and it just kind of brought me back to a lot of things that I experienced going through Reading. And you started to try to think about a theme. What do we want to talk about tonight? And I promise I'll try to keep it short. It's if you look at it, it's just about a page. But many times you'll hear coaches or commentators talking about the it factor. No one can say quite what it is, but everyone can recognize whether a team or an athlete has it. As you saw, my junior year, we had a great season. We went 24-0 before we lost in the semifinals. What they didn't say was every girl on that team, we had the top 7th ranked, I think, batters in the state, if not in the league. They were number 1 or 2 at every position. And some of the girls who got number 2 at some of the positions, it was just because there was 6 or 7 of us already at number 1, and they kind of had to give it to other people. I mean, I worked with some, I played with some great athletes. So, needless to say, when we lost, we had Channel 4 down there, and the expectations were very high. But there was always something missing, I think, within that team. Now, come my senior year, we had 9 seniors we lost. There was 2 returning starters, me and Kim O'Riordan. Granted, it's always nice to have the pitcher returning. That's always nice. And me, the center fielder, okay? So that's all that we had. And we came back and we won the state championship there. And I always tell this story, and it was kind of just how the team started the year. The very first practice of the year, our coach would pull out, and we had a lot of equipment to go out and get, everything, and pitching machines and whatnot. So at least a couple of us had to go out and help. And the very first practice, a senior who was a first-year senior on the team, he pulled up and she said and we had, my senior year, there was 10 sophomores, 5 juniors, and 5 seniors on that championship team. So they pulled up and she said, okay, sophomores, go get the equipment. And I looked and I went, no, because I had experienced varsity as a freshman, and I had some hard times, and I knew I never wanted to do that. I never wanted to do what we call now that bullying. So I just stood up, very casually, and I walked over to her. I put my hand out to her, and I said, there is no freshmen, sophomore, juniors, or seniors on this team. This year, we are one, and that's how we'll do it, and me and you today will go get the equipment. And I remember looking around and seeing all the sophomores, kind of their mouth, oh my gosh, this is, because this was their first year on varsity. So that kind of set the tone, I think, for what it might be. So what is it? Well, my senior year, I believe it was that we worked well together, not just on the field, but off the field. We had, many encounters at my house, as my mother will probably let you know, sleepovers and whatnot, and we really formed a very good bond. What it is an understanding that as a whole, you can achieve so much more than you would by yourself. And for me, what a great lesson it was to learn that so early in life. Sports has given me so much in life, and through coaching my son's teams, I hope that I have given back just just a little bit of what I have received. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you, young gentlemen. Our next inductee, I think he fits along with the theme with Janice. It. He had it. As a sophomore on the varsity hockey team, he was very complacent to take a lesser role, sit back and learn from those veteran defensemen on Peter Doherty's hockey team. But as his junior and senior years rolled around, the hockey world knew Paul Sacco had it. Leadership, hockey intelligence, great character. He was a co-captain of the first Reading High hockey team to capture a sectional championship.
The Reading High boys hockey program won its first ever Middlesex League title in 1983, but it wasn't until 3 years later that the program really took off. Beginning with the start of the 85-86 season, the Rockets went on to win 5 of the next 6 league titles, including 3 in a row from 86 through 88. And one of the cornerstones in helping to ignite this charge was a 5'10" defenseman named Paul Sacco. Sacco was part of a tremendous Bantam youth hockey team that won the state title in 85 and went on to the Nationals as the only town team in the tournament. That Bantam team would stock the Reading High program with talent over the next 3 seasons. Players like Reading High Hall of Famer Kevin Thompson, David Matrona, Rich McSorley, Mike O'Keefe, Mark Tango, and Bob McKeel, along with Paul Sacco, saw the next 3 hockey seasons end with Reading High on top of the Middlesex League. And by the time they were seniors in 87-88, the Rockets went on to win the Division I North Tournament and battle vaunted Catholic Memorial in the state final at the old Boston Garden. At the beginning of Paul's sophomore year, the young defenseman quickly established himself and earned regular ice time right from the start. Reading already had veteran defenders like Steve Shaughnessy and Scott Rooney, so the transition for Sacco to varsity hockey was a seamless one. Adapting very quickly to Hall of Fame coach Peter Doherty's defensive defenseman-first style of play for his Blue Liners, Sacco played like a veteran rather than a sophomore. The 85-86 Rockets were a team without superstars. Its top scorer, John Boudreau, scored 21 goals to go along with 21 assists for 42 points. Later in life, John Boudreau would become Paul Sacco's brother-in-law. Then there was Captain Mark Reardon, who scored 13 goals, and junior center Brian Thompson, who had 26 points. Along the blue line, Shaughnessy, who would go on to play at BU, and Rooney were fine movers of the puck and could adeptly clear the Reading zone and get the forwards in transition. Sacco was content at the outset to take care of things in the Reading zone as he got acclimated to varsity hockey. It wasn't until the 5th game of the year that the future RMHS Hall of Famer earned his first career point, and it came on a goal in the team's tough 4-2 loss to Woburn at O'Brien Rink. At the time, the Rockets shared the Woburn Rink with the Tanners. Not having its own rink did not hinder the talented and deep Rockets of 1986. They rebounded from that late December loss to Woburn to go 8-0-1 in their next 9 games, until another loss to the Tanners. Unfortunately for Woburn, it did not have the same luck against the other Middlesex League teams, as it was the Rockets who ultimately took care of enough business to emerge with a 14-2-2 league record in the league title. Sacco wound up the 86 season with 4 goals and 4 assists. Besides the one against Woburn, he sealed a 5-2 win in the following game against Wakefield, and then scored his other 2 goals with first goals in wins over Stoneham and in a non-leaguer against Somerville. In the tournament, the Rockets buried Andover 9-2, but then were eliminated by Belmont in a 10-6 loss in a wild game at Salem State, following a victory short of reaching the Division I North semifinals at Boston Garden. Overall, it was a good season for the Rockets, which finished with the league title and a 16-4-2 overall record, and it was a good season for Paul Sacco, who established himself as a solid stay-at-home defenseman in his first year of varsity hockey, with big things to come. The following year, in 1986-87, the Rockets returned a host of talented players. Brian Thompson was the team's captain and went on to be the Middlesex League's MVP that season, as well as being named an All-Scholastic. Kevin Thompson, now a sophomore, was coming off a 10-goal freshman season. The 2 Thompsons, along with senior left winger Matt Driscoll, would form Reading's top line that year. And now a junior, it was time for Paul Sacco to take an increased role both defensively as well as offensively. By nature, Paul was a defense-first defenseman, but that was not to slight his offensive ability. An excellent skater with great balance, Sacco had an underrated shot that would be unleashed more and more in his last 2 years of high school hockey. Beginning his junior year, Paul became a little bit of everything, according to Coach Peter Doherty. It was almost impossible for opponents to beat Sacco one-on-one, and he remains perhaps the best defender in RMHS history in that aspect of the game. The successes of Sacco's last 2 seasons of Reading High hockey are still unparalleled in the annals of the history of the program. Reading posted consecutive 20-win seasons, to this day the only time in school history that has happened. Reading broke out fast in 86-87 by ripping off 8 straight wins until a tie with Stoneham. The unbeaten streak stretched to 11 games until old nemesis Woburn won 4-2. But that would be the last blemish for the regular season, as the Rockets won their last 8 and gave up just 7 goals during that stretch. In the early rounds of the tournament, the Rockets continued their domination over their opponents. A 3-0 win over Swampscott was followed by a 6-0 win over Everett. Against Everett, Paul began the Rockets' assault with the game's first goal. He also added a pair of assists during the contest, sending the Rockets to the Garden to face Saugus. Playing under the bright lights in the Boston spotlight only fueled the Rockets as they buried Saugus 8-1, sending them to the Division I North Sectional title game against Chelmsford. The sectional title game went back and forth, with Reading coming from 2 goals down to tie, only to be stung by a late Chelmsford goal and fell in defeat 5-4. With his junior season wrapped up, Paul received the first of his 2 Middlesex League All-Star selections. Playing his usual stellar defense, Sacco picked up his offensive production with 8 goals, 15 assists for 23 points, but there was still more to come. The Rockets were again a strong favorite to win the Middlesex League title in 87-88 with another strong returning cast. Paul and senior left winger Mike Vetter would captain this team. After 2 relatively easy wins, a shocking 8-4 loss to Woburn grounded the Rockets with a dose of humble pie. This loss proved beneficial, as Reading could not rest on its laurels. That loss would be the last one for a very long time. Reading got its act together and went on to reel off 15 wins and 2 ties to finish off the regular season with yet another Middlesex League crown.
The terrific defenseman All-Scholastic Paul Sacco, who wears number 4, expanded the margin to 2-0. Sacco is a real talented rear guard.
We're looking forward to it. We're getting ready for it. We want to get back to the Garden. It was a great thrill last year.
The Rockets stormed into the playoffs and easily dispatched Central Catholic 6-2 to set up a Division I North sectional semifinal meeting with Middlesex League member Belmont at the Boston Garden. During this period, the Rockets and Marauders were fierce rivals on the ice. Belmont head coach Dante Muzzioli had his Marauders play a chippy, aggressive, fast-skating style that helped turn the program around in the mid-'80s. Seniors on the RMHS team remembered the shock they felt just 2 tournament seasons ago when the Marauders scored a 10-6 upset at Salem State. Paul was a guiding light against Belmont. His slap shot from the point was one of the 5 goals the Rockets scored on that Tuesday night.
Murray chases, stopped by Sacco, big drive, scores! Paul Sacco on the bullet from 55 feet out.
He also added an assist on a goal by Derek Denler to send the Rockets into another sectional final, this time against Woburn. The Tanners were the one Middlesex League team that had Reading's number during this period in Reading High hockey. During Paul's 3-year varsity career, his Reading teams were 44-0-4 against the rest of the Middlesex League, but the Tanners owned a 4-1-1 advantage over the Rockets, yet Reading won the Middlesex League all 3 years. But now, in the biggest game of all, it was Reading's turn to wipe that slate clean. But to do that, the Rockets had to find a way to beat Woburn All-Scholastic goalie Tom Cole. Cole would later become a teammate of Sacco's at Northeastern University, but on Saturday, March 12, 1988, he was the opposition that stood in Reading's way of a sectional title. Vetter put the Rockets ahead at the 35-second mark with a goal, and Frank Golden increased the score to 2-0 after the first period. From then on, it was up to the defensive play of Sacco and goalie Bob McKeel as the Rockets skated to a 5-0 victory to give Reading its first ever sectional boys hockey championship. In later years, the '88 boys hockey team was also inducted into the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame. Reading ran into Catholic Memorial in the Division I state final, and the Scarlet Knights had too much offensive and defensive depth and denied the Rockets a state title as Reading bowed 3-1 back at the Boston Garden. Still, quite a season for the Rockets and Paul Sacco. The co-captain finished the year with 6 goals and 25 assists for a career-best 31 points. For his career, Paul scored 18 goals and added 44 assists for 62 points, ranking him 4th all-time for career points by a Reading High defenseman. Honors again came his way. Sacco earned a 2nd straight selection to the Middlesex League All-Star team, as well as all scholastic selections by both the Boston Globe and Boston Herald. Paul received a hockey scholarship to play in Hockey East for Northeastern University. He captained the Huskies in his senior year during the 1991-92 season.
Drops it back here, Sacco scores! Sacco, Paul Sacco, with a goal to put Northeastern ahead 6-5.
A professional career awaited in Europe, where he played for 8 seasons, mostly in Italy. Settling back in the States and in the local area, Paul was an assistant coach and later interim head coach at Woburn High in 2004. Now married to the former Jennifer Boudreau of Reading, Paul is raising his family in Stoneham, where he is also the Stoneham High boys head hockey coach and will be entering his 3rd year this upcoming season. So it is with great pride the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame welcomes Paul Sacco into its induction class of 2013.
What was it like to get the call, knowing that you were going to be in the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame?
That was a great honor. Great honor. Reading hockey's got a great legacy of hockey players and hockey teams, and to be part of that group is something really special.
Can you talk a little bit about what it was like to play with the legend, Coach Peter Doherty?
Absolutely. Coach Doherty was an inspiration for me throughout my career, and the guys we play with, Brian Thompson, Kevin Thompson, Mark Tango, we had some characters out there, and great friends, and I think that's why we were so successful.
Now, you went on, obviously, after you were done with Reading High School, and you've had quite a career yourself with playing and coaching as well. There's one thing, though. Coaching in Stoneham and coming back to Reading, what is that like?
Yeah, I've got a few little digs here and there just because I'm on the other side of the fence now. But it's great because Coach Doherty and all the things that he taught me, lessons in life, the way to play the game, that I can pass that down to my players now. So it's a complete joy to be coaching, but it's a little odd being on the other side of the fence.
I can only imagine.
Paul Sacco.
It was an honor when Steve called me up and said, "Hey, you're inducted into the Hall of Fame, and congratulations, and we need some shots, pitches, highlight clips." And if anybody knew my mother, it was a no-brainer. I said, "Steve, how much do you want? I got a truckload in the back of the house. I'm looking to get rid of it." So I thank my mother for a lot of those clips, and Steve Algieri for what we see here, and I'm blessed that I can show it to my kids that are here today. I would like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for the induction into the Hall. It's an amazing honor to be recognized with names like Collins, Diamond, Thompson, Mr. Doherty, and the other great coaches and athletes in the Reading Hall of Fame. I had the honor and pleasure of being part of the 1988 hockey team that was inducted into the Hall of Fame a few years ago with the one and only Mr. Pete Doherty. In such a personal honor like this, I need to thank the people that helped me grow as a person and as a hockey player. Hockey has taken me around the world, and I owe that experience to those people that helped me get there. I would like to thank Coach Peter Doherty. He was definitely a unique coach
who lived by one opinion and one opinion only, his own. He expected great things from ordinary kids. He demanded hard work, focus, and dedication, which spelled success for Reading High School hockey. He was not a big XO coach. He kept it simple, and there was no one better than him. I need to say thank you to Mark Doherty, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Driscoll, Pat Doherty, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Burns, that helped me and my teammates along the way. They instilled passion for the game, and most of all, they are great people and influenced me and many others in the game and in life itself. I need to thank my teammates. When I first started at Reading High School, Mark Reardon, John Bedreau, Shag Shaughnessy, then there was Brian Thompson, Scott Rooney, Matt Driscoll, Kenny Margosian. Then it was on to my senior year, the 1988 team. We had a cast of characters that would put Walt Disney to shame. We had Mark Tango, Dave Matrona, Mike O'Keefe, Keith Wilson, myself, Rich McSorley, Mike Vetta, Kevin Thompson, Frankie Golden, DJ Crowley, Bobby McHale, Derek Denler. We had a blast. The best times of my life growing up was being with my teammates. And I would like to say thank you for all the great times and the success we had. It was an awesome ride, and I'll never forget it. I have to thank Steve Algieri for all the ink he provided in the newspaper. The more he printed, the more my mother cut out the articles. It's crazy. I should have called you to tell you to slow down a little bit. If you ever had a chance to hear him commentate on television, which he did, he was a mix somewhere between Al Michaels and Howard Cosell. So thank you, Steve. I have to thank my mother and father, my father who's here tonight, for always supporting me in the game of hockey and life. I couldn't ask for better parents. My two sisters are here too, Kate and Tracy, who would get dragged around from rink to rink. And I'm not talking the Stoneham rink to the Reading rink. I'm talking, my sister Katie had to go from Boston College, which is Chestnut Hill, get in the van and be in Colorado for a Friday night game the next week. She'd jump in the van with my mother, and off they'd go to Colorado, then to Denver, and then they'd hike back again for the week after. So I thank you for that. There was also a trip up to Orono, Maine on a Friday night that I remember that my sister Katie had to jump in the van. It was snowing out, and my mother said, once this game's over, we got to get to Princeton because I got to watch the game on Saturday night. So again, thank you, Kate and Trace, for all you did for getting Mom to the games. My father was a flyer, so he said, Margie, here's the van. I'll be on the plane. I'll see you there. Last, I want to thank my wife, Jen, for everything she sacrificed. She moved off to Europe. We had a blast because we didn't have any kids, actually, at the time. But we came home after Europe, and then I was coaching over at Woburn, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to try this again. So I signed a little minor league contract, and I said, Jen, pack up the 3 kids, we're going to Connecticut. So, you know what, she did. And I thank her for moving around and following my dreams and what she let me live. I'd also like to, my 3 kids are here, Cameron, Gabby, and Sabrina, who are now all playing hockey. And I look forward to waking up tomorrow morning. We have a 6 o'clock game, so we'll be at the rink nice and early with Gabby. And I wouldn't have that any other way. So thank you again for this great honor. I appreciate it.
The beginning of the 1994 baseball season started in epic fashion. The team started 6-0 and outscored their opponents 74-0. Will never be done again. This team was loaded with pitching. On the front end had Tom Fratto, Steve Langone, and great pitching depth behind them. Offensively, Fratto, Chris Donegan, he could swing the bats. And it seemed like every time they needed a big play, offensively, defensively, someone stepped up and came through in the clutch. This was one great ride.
The Reading Bulldogs of the Intercity Baseball League congratulate the 1994 RMHS baseball team, led by their captains Tom Fratto and Dan Robinson, and Hall of Fame coach Pete Moscarello, for an outstanding season. Heading into the 1994 baseball season, the word on the street was the Rockets were not expected to be overpowering in any aspect of the game. But through the first 6 games, Reading High had more than exceeded those uninspiring expectations as the Rockets sprinted to a 6-0 start while scoring 74 runs and allowing 0. The streak started with an 11-0 win over Wakefield. Opening day starter Tom Fratto allowed just 1 hit over 5 innings. The senior co-captain added 2 hits, drove in 2 runs, and scored 3 times. Sophomore and future Hall of Famer Steve Langone was the Game 2 starter against Winchester, and Langone picked up where Fratto left off. The right-hander carried a perfect game into the 7th before yielding a 2-out single en route to a 12-0 victory over the Sachems. Senior co-captain Dan Robinson powered the offense by going 4 for 4 with a home run and 5 runs batted in. Fratto struck out 8 in his second start of the season versus Watertown. The outfield tandem of Chris Foley and Mike Cormio recorded 2 hits each as the Rockets soared to a 10-0 victory at Morton Field. The 4th game of the season was a highly anticipated matchup against Lexington at Doubleday Field on the grounds of the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. The Rockets' performance that day was one for the ages, recording a 13-0 win over the Minutemen. Tom Fratto's endeavors at the plate were characterized by Coach Pete Moscarello as a Hall of Fame performance. Fratto went 4 for 4 and drove in 6 runs on the strength of 3 home runs, including a monster shot to the deepest part of the ballpark. Not to be outdone, starter Steve Langone pitched 7 innings, striking out 16 and allowing 1 hit. He also recorded 4 hits on the day. Next up for the Rockets was a trip to Morelli Field in Melrose to face the Red Raiders. Reading scored 5 times in the first inning on its way to a 15-0 rout, highlighted by a 3-run triple by senior Coley Foley. Fratto earned his 3rd victory of the year, going 5 innings, allowing a single hit while fanning 11. After 5 games, the undefeated Rockets scored 61 runs on 61 hits, while their pitching staff allowed no runs and just 9 hits. At Burlington in Game 6, the Rockets scored 13 runs on 13 hits. Coley Foley went 3 for 3 with 4 RBI, and Langone picked up his 3rd shutout victory of the season. And finally, it happened. After outscoring their opponents by a mind-boggling 74-0, Belmont snapped the Rockets' shutout streak by scoring 3 runs, but the Rockets won in walk-off fashion. Fratto, who homered earlier in the game, ended the day as he drove in John Whalen with a 7th-inning single. Fratto also recorded his 4th mound victory of the season. A workmanlike 5-1 victory over the Tanners in Woburn moved the Rockets to 8-0. Langone allowed 3 hits on his way to win number 4. The schedule makers could not have drawn it up any better. Reading was set to face its dreaded rival Stoneham, who were locked with the Rockets in a first-place tie at 8-0. In a battle of mound aces at Morton Field, Peter Fisher was dominant for Stoneham, spinning a complete game 1-hitter as the Spartans defeated the Rockets 8-0. Fratto suffered his first loss of the season. A 5-1 win over Winchester got RMHS back on track. Chris Donegan went 3 for 3 and drove in 2 runs, while Langone recorded his 3rd 1-hitter of the season. After flirting with a no-hitter earlier in the year, Fratto got his no-no against Wakefield. Ironically, the Warriors scored twice in the 6th. With the bases loaded, Fratto picked the tying run off 3rd to end the threat. The Rockets held on for a 3-2 victory. Getting his first start of the season, number 3 starter John Whalen took full advantage of the opportunity with a 6-inning, 1-hit, 10-strikeout performance. The Rockets scored a single run in the first on Fratto's 4th home run of the season, and that's all the offense Whalen and the Rockets would need as they pounded Watertown 10-0. Reading's pitching depth was again on display as Mike Flint went to the mound against Burlington. All the senior right-hander did was scatter 7 hits while shutting out the Red Devils over 6 innings. Reading went on to defeat Burlington 7-1. Facing Lexington for the second time this season, the result was the same, but the game was far more competitive than the contest in Cooperstown. Lexington cut Reading's lead to 2-1 with a single run in the 6th inning off Steve Langone, and in the 7th, Lexington threatened, but the future Hall of Fame pitcher showed his mound presence. With a runner on third and 1 out, the Minutemen botched a suicide squeeze attempt. Dan Robinson tagged the helpless runner out at home plate. Langone then closed the inning and the game with a strikeout, securing a 2-1 victory. Reading and its 13-1 record hosted Melrose at Washington Park. Fratto towed the rubber in a key game in the Rockets' drive to a Middlesex League title. The right-hander recorded another complete game victory, allowing 1 run and 1 hit, as Reading defeated Melrose 4-1. With a rematch versus Stoneham in sight, the Rockets took on Woburn in a trap game. Trailing 5-3 in the bottom of the 7th, RMHS scored 3 times and walked off with a 6-5 win. Fratto tied the game with a single. He promptly stole second, and with 2 outs, Chris Dunnigan blasted a game-winning shot to left. Now, it was time for the rematch between Reading and Stoneham, this time at Stoneham High School. At stake for the Rockets, a chance to tie the Spartans for the league lead. It took 9 innings to decide this one, and great pitching, great defense, and clutch plays were on display. Peter Fisher, who would later play at Alabama, and Langone, later headed to BC, each threw complete games. They allowed a combined 9 hits and a single run. In the 5th inning, Matt Stinson, a defensive replacement in right field, made a key play cutting down a Spartan runner at home plate to preserve the shutout. In the 9th, Langone started the inning with an infield hit. Donegan sacrificed him to second, and enter Coley Foley. After a collision at first base with Stoneham's TJ Sheedy in the bottom of the 8th, Foley left the game with a knee injury. But Coley would not be denied an opportunity to put his mark on this game. The right-handed hitter was 0 for 2 in the game when he stepped to the plate and delivered what turned out to be the game-winning run with a solid single to center field. The victory not only gave Reading a share of first place, it also snapped Stoneham's 35-game Middlesex League winning streak. Needing a win to share the Middlesex League title, Reading's next game was on the road versus Belmont. Donegan recorded a double and a triple in the same inning as the Rockets scored 10 runs on 10 hits and pounded the Marauders 10-0. The Rockets finished the season by participating in the Wilmington tournament. Getting his first start of the season, senior right-hander Matt Stinson put his name in the record books. Red, as he was known to his teammates, recorded what many to believe was the first perfect game in RMHS history. 21 Wilmington Wildcats up and 21 down. One day later, Langone threw a 1-hit shutout against Northeast Regional as Reading won 6-0. During the tournament, Reading pitchers faced 43 batters and allowed 1 hit. The Rockets finished the regular season at 19-1 and drew the number 1 seed in the MIAA Division II North Tournament and received a bye. The Witches of Salem High School were Reading's first opponent in the postseason. Mike Flint got Reading on the board with a solo home run in the 3rd. Later that inning, Dan Robinson drove in 2 runs with a double to left. Langone gave up 1 run over 7 innings, and the Rockets defeated Salem 4-1. Reading, now winners of 12 in a row, faced Lincoln Sudbury, the number 5 seed, in Wilmington in the sectional semifinals. Reading sent Tom Fratto to the mound in search of his 9th win of the season. Fratto pitched with a heavy heart that day due to a loss of a close relative, but he showed great mental toughness as he willed the Rockets to a 4-1 victory. The win earned RMHS a spot in the Division II North Sectional Finals against Stoneham. The rubber game featured Peter Fisher versus Steve Langone, the same starters who took to the mound in Reading's thrilling 1-0 win weeks earlier. Unfortunately for Reading, this one was a repeat of the first Reading-Stoneham matchup. Fisher was again outstanding. He allowed 1 hit and struck out 12 as the Spartans handled the Rockets 8-0. The loss ended Reading's season at 21-2, but what a season it was. Reading outscored its opponents 150-36. 10 of the team's 21 wins were by shutout. The team ERA was 1.12. The individual awards and accomplishments rolled in as well. Tom Fratto led the team in 8 offensive categories, including batting average with 375, home runs with 5, and RBIs with 24. Chris Dunnigan batted .318 and led the team with 7 doubles. On the mound, Steve Langone went 9-1 with an ERA of 0.69, while striking out 75 in 70 2/3 innings. Tom Fratto went 8-1 with an ERA of 1.51. Dan Robinson, Chris Dunnigan, Steve Langone, and Tom Fratto were named Middlesex League All-Stars. In addition to the aforementioned players, Chris Foley and Coley Foley were selected to the Middlesex League All-Star game. Steve Langone was chosen as the Daily Times Chronicle Pitcher of the Year. Tom Fratto was named the DTC Player of the Year, as well as a Boston Herald and Boston Globe All-Scholastic. So it is with great pride that the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame welcomes the 1994 baseball team into its induction class of 2013.
I'd like to introduce the captains of the '94 team, Dan Robinson, Tom Fratto, and the coach, the Hall of Famer, Pete Moscarello. Gentlemen.
All right, first I want to say thank you very much to this night, to Mike and the rest of the Hall of Fame committee. Unbelievable work. You guys did a first-class job tonight. So. When Dan called me last year, told me that we got inducted or we're getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, I was like, oh yeah, this is great news, awesome. You know, there's tons of teams from Reading, tons of great talented teams. We didn't win a state title like a lot of them did, but it is a great honor to be part of the tradition of Reading athletics. Then I thought to myself, oh, now I have to plan to speak at the event. So I know we're told, you know, we get 15 minutes or whatever. Most of my teammates know that I wasn't ever the big rah-rah guy. That was Robinson. So I'm going to leave pretty much the rest of the time up to him. But when thinking about, you know, how our team came together, the one thing I want to say is that we had the greatest coaches that the high school team could have. Coach Moscarello ran an unbelievable program. The practices were meticulous, intense, fun. Well, at least senior year they were fun because we had, you know, we had hitting games every practice because we won 22 games or whatever. I don't think we had that in our junior year, but we actually probably, well, we might have a record for the most hitting games in one season as well, but that's that. So I know Robinson's been planning this night for what, 19 years now, because it's been. So I'm gonna turn the mic over to him. I think he has some words to say about our team. All right.
Thanks, Tom. You guys will probably notice we brought our fan club with us tonight. We won some awards for how loud we could be, I guess. There we go. When I think of this group of guys here, you know, as you saw there, no one thought that much of us going into the season, and I can tell you right now that this was the best group of players I ever played with, the best team I was ever on. No one worked as hard. No one had as much fun as this group, and no one wanted to win baseball games as much as this team wanted to win baseball games. This was a team that understood what it meant to be a team, that got that it meant something to them to have each other's backs, to be in those tight situations and pull through for your teammate. There's two things that Coach Moscarello told me that I'll share with you today, and I'll never forget them because both of them came true for me. We were leaving practice one day. He let a couple of us go early, believe it or not, because the junior prom was that night. And we were taking our cleats off, and we said to us, fellas, be careful who you take to the junior prom. And we all looked up and said, well, what do you mean? He said, because you might end up marrying them. And that happened. So, and then the other thing, and I'll paraphrase this because I don't quite remember what the wording was, but the sentiment was very much, remember this and enjoy this. You get to roll out of bed, come down here and play baseball every day, and cherish that, and I do. I have such great memories, and it was so much fun to watch that with all these guys, because every one of these guys, I cherish the memories with all of them, and I'm so happy to see so many of these guys here tonight and celebrate this great accomplishment with all you guys. So thanks.
Just need 2 minutes to say a couple things. First, thank you to the Hall of Fame committee for this wonderful event and for recognizing the 1994 baseball team, but also for, I guess, 13 years and 10 of these events, and for honoring so many RMHS athletes, coaches, contributors, and teams. So thank you, Hall of Fame committee. And congratulations to all the inductees tonight. We want to give special congratulations to some people who have been really special friends to Reading baseball over the years. First, Phil Vaccaro, who has been an awesome supporter, and we love listening to Phil because he's always the teacher. So congratulations, Mr. V. And to Rick Carter, who has been a generous and unselfish supporter and friend to Reading baseball. Congratulations on the Cliff Allen Award to Rick Carter. And also to one of our own players, Steve Gath, whom you'll hear from shortly. So congratulations, Steve. And of course, congratulations to you guys, the 1994 team, speaking for Coach Bryson and myself, and also for Jeff Nelson. Coach Bryson and I coached that team together. Jeff Nelson was a JV coach. I want Jeff to be recognized because he coached 20 years in our baseball program. He's a current golf coach. He's been the varsity basketball coach, and he was with us through the whole tournament. You saw him in Cooperstown and some of the other photos there. So just want to have a round of applause for Jeff Nelson, who's been important to our program. You know, the video is unbelievable. The stats are just amazing with the ERAs and the batting average and the 74-0 and all that. But for us coaches, the real greatness of this team was in their character and in the leadership. We had terrific leadership in Dan and Tom, but certainly throughout the whole roster. I think that's what made this team special. They had leaders up and down the lineup, juniors, seniors, sophomores, and great team chemistry and a really neat ability to work hard every single day and have fun every single day. I know you guys had fun, but we know how hard you work, and you certainly made it fun for Coach Bryson and me every single day. So we are real proud to have coached this team. It was a privilege for us. We're proud of you guys. We're especially proud of the men that you have become today. And for us coaches, the very best part of this team is the fact that we forged friendships amongst players, between coaches and players, 19 years ago, and those friendships are even stronger today. So to our team, Coach Bryson and I, and Coach Nelson, congratulations, guys.
At this time, I'd like to bring the remaining members of the 94 team to the podium to be recognized and receive their award.
Here for the 94 team is Coley Foley, Chris Foley, Matt Red Stinson, Josh Driscoll, Coach Ted Bryson, Josh Martin, Dave Zaya, Chris Donegan, and of course Steve Langone.
I'm here with the captains of the 1994 baseball team, Dan Robinson to my right, Tom Fratto to my left. And let me start with you, Tom. You guys had an unbelievable start to that season, 6-0, outscored your opponents 74-0. What was the talk in the locker room? Was it, don't be the guy, not only to lose the first game, but don't be the guy to give up the first run?
Well, I really haven't, 20 years ago, I couldn't tell you, but all I know is that we went on a nice run to start the season, and we feel like we couldn't be beat. We ran into a tough pitcher and Stoneham, and that broke the winning streak, and we bounced back, won another, what did we say, I think 10 in a row after that, and on to the state finals and lost, but we had a great run.
Danny, as a catcher, you worked with a pretty talented pitching staff. Tommy, of course, Steve Langone, who was an up-and-comer. That staff had an awful lot of depth. Your number 5 guy throws a perfect game. So what was it like working with those guys?
Just a great group of guys, you wouldn't find a harder working group of guys. Between the pitchers to the field, everyone, that whole roster was full of guys who came every day and showed up and wanted to play and wanted to work at it. So it wasn't a whole lot of work to get down there and work with anybody.
You guys look like you're a pretty tight group still to this day. You look like you're in touch with each other and hanging around. And so what's it like getting the old group back together again?
Yeah, this is a few of the guys we still see a lot. Some guys I haven't seen since we graduated, but Dan, his son, my sons, both good friends, and coaching together now with him is great. Getting together with these guys right now, it should be a fun night.
You get to coach with this guy?
I get to coach with this guy.
Is he teaching you about pitching? Because the only thing you knew about pitching was
you
you couldn't hit it.
Pitching. He thinks he's teaching me. I'm teaching him about pitching. I definitely couldn't hit the pitching. Certainly not his, but.
So tell me quick, Danny, when you got the call that your team had been selected, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
Oh, I was really excited. At the time I was with my parents when Pete called me, and they were all excited because, it's not just the players. There's a lot of families, a lot of parents that have a lot of great memories from that season. So it was a lot of fun to get the word out to the guys, and everyone was really looking forward to this night. So.
Well, it will be a great night. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Captains of the 1994 baseball team. What's interesting in Reading athletics is the lineage. You just met Dan Robinson. Dan's brother-in-law, Bill Scott, was here with the 1994 baseball team, right? Soccer team a couple of years ago. Is that correct? Right. So Bill was here 2 years ago to represent the soccer team, and what continues the lineage is that Bill's dad, Bill Scott Sr., was a captain of the 1965 football team that was inducted back in 1998. So apparently I'm the only one that thinks that's great. So that's okay, because I have the microphone. So quickly we'll move to the next person. One of the really special things about being the MC, it's kind of a cool gig, is I get nice moments like this where my brother and his team come up and I get to introduce them. What's about to happen next is also a really special moment. I've known our next inductee, Courtney Campbell, literally forever, from the day she was born. And over the course of years, I watched her grow into just an outstanding athlete in softball and field hockey. In field hockey, she was one of the best players in the nation. And think about that. Someone from our little town was the best player, one of the best players in the country. That's unbelievable. But what's more unbelievable is Courtney the person. I watched her over the years grow up and to be just an outstanding young woman. She's a tremendous, nurturing, caring sister to Taryn, and a wonderful role model to her brother Christopher. The Reading High class of 2003's Courtney Campbell may be one of the most unassuming athletes ever to be inducted into the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame. Not physically big or exceptionally fast, Campbell became an all-scholastic in 2 sports due to her drive, commitment, determination, and intelligence on the field. Never was the stage too big or the lights too bright when Courtney Campbell stepped to the plate in softball or patrolled the midfield in field hockey. Softball coach Jill McElroy never envisioned that the center fielder on her spring of 2000 freshman team would be a fixture on the varsity for the next 3 years, but that's exactly what happened. Coming up to the varsity as a sophomore in 2001, Campbell made the most of her opportunity. She won the starting center fielder spot, and despite the Lady Rockets' second-place finish in the Middlesex League, they caught fire late in the year and made a fantastic tournament run all the way to the Division I state title. As a sophomore and a member of a state champion, Campbell was not just along for the ride. She was a strong contributor, usually batting in the number 2 spot in the order and playing a stellar center field. Courtney was named to the first of her 3 Middlesex League All-Star teams in softball that spring. It's hard to follow up a state title, and in 2002, the Lady Rockets fell short with a 17-6 record and an early tournament exit. But Campbell continued her solid play and earned another All-Star selection as a junior to the Middlesex League team. Campbell, who was named team captain for her senior year, rededicated herself to finish off her softball career in style. By her own standards, Courtney's junior year in softball was subpar. As a result,
She worked in the batting cages in the off-season and worked to get stronger. All of the hard work in the off-season paid off as Campbell's added strength saw more balls driven into the gap for extra base hits. Courtney went on to hit 4 doubles, 6 triples, and 3 home runs in the spring of 2003 while batting .422. Her fielding never waned during her 3 years with the varsity. She continued to read the ball off the opposing hitter's bats to make countless running catches and accurate throws to the infield from her center field position. And when her team needed her in the clutch, Courtney brought her game to the next level. Burlington was Reading's big rival in softball in those days. In the first meeting with the Lady Devils, who were Middlesex League champs in 2002, with their team down a run with 1 out in the bottom of the 7th, Courtney doubled to tie the game, then scored the winning run 1 batter later, as the Lady Rockets went a perfect 20-0 during the regular season of 2003 to recapture the Middlesex League softball title. As the tournament's #1 seed, it was not going to be easy for the Lady Rockets to win back the state title from 2 years ago. Reading did beat Acton-Boxborough in the first round, but surprisingly, the season came to an end in the quarterfinal round game versus Lynn Classical. Courtney did all she could to preserve the season. She almost single-handedly willed her team to victory as she belted 3 hits, including a triple, and a last inning 2-out double that kept Reading alive right down to the final out. But Classical did get that final out to record a 1-0 upset win. Only one team in each division come tournament time ever leaves happy, and the ending was a sad one for the Lady Rockets and Courtney Campbell. Still, the accolades that she was deserving of came her way. She was named to the Middlesex League All-Star team for a 3rd straight year, named by the Daily Times-Chronicle as its outstanding performer for softball, and then by the Boston Herald as an All-Scholastic. And as good as Courtney was in softball, she may have been even better in field hockey. An unselfish two-way player for the Lady Rockets, Campbell brought to the team an immense strength of personal character thanks to her emotional maturity at a young age. Whether on offense or defense, Courtney's greatest asset is her ability to read the field and sense the developing play. Defensively, she could read the incoming attack and anticipate the play well, which allowed her to step up aggressively for interceptions. A patient, one-on-one defender, Campbell possessed a quick, accurate stick and great footwork. Offensively, she combined excellent field vision with stellar receiving and passing skills. During her junior year in 2001, Campbell was the team's leading scorer with 9 goals and 11 assists on a team that compiled a record of 17 wins, 2 losses, and 2 ties, finished in 2nd place in the Middlesex League to Watertown, and won 2 tournament games. Courtney was named the Middlesex League All-Star. In her senior year in field hockey, she exploded. Hall of Fame coach Mim Jarima recognized that her team needed a little more direction from the midfield, opted to maximize Campbell's defensive skills by dropping her back from forward to midfield. Courtney made the switch without any trouble. She was the team's leading corner defender and still managed to score 10 goals and 12 assists for a team that finished 20-2 and won a share of the Middlesex League title for the first time in 10 seasons. The games with Watertown were intense battles, with the Lady Raiders winning the first one 3-0 in the 6th game of the season. But, in the rematch, the Lady Rockets earned their revenge with a 1-0 win.
I'm so proud of you.
Reading rolled the rest of the way, and when it dusted off Stoneham 5-0 in the league finale, the Lady Rockets headed into the Division I North Tournament with a stellar 17-1-0 record. In the tournament, Reading defeated Middlesex League rival Lexington and then posted wins over Danvers and Gloucester to set up a meeting with Weston in the sectional final. Played at Martin Field in Lowell, the Lady Rockets fell short 2-0 to a powerful Weston team. It was a fantastic season for the Lady Rockets, and in particular, Courtney Campbell. She earned a 2nd straight selection as a Middlesex League All-Star and was runner-up for league MVP honors. She was a Daily Times-Chronicle Player of the Year and was chosen by the Boston Globe as an All-Scholastic. Courtney was selected to play in the state's Best of 60 State All-Star Game and traveled to San Diego to play in the National Field Hockey Festival. Following high school, Courtney went on to Stonehill College, where she helped lead the Skyhawks to the Northeast 10 Field Hockey Championship and a berth in the NCAA Division II tournament. She earned All-American status and played in the National Field Hockey Coaches Association Division II North-South Senior All-Star Game at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So it is with great pride that the Reading Memorial High School Athletic Hall of Fame inducts Courtney Campbell into its class of 2013.
It's my honor to present Courtney Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mascarello, for that great introduction. I could have done without some of those pictures, though. But really, thank you to the Hall of Fame committee for all of your hard work in putting this night together. I would like to congratulate the other inductees and say what an honor it is to share this special night with all of you. If you were to tell me 10 years ago that I'd be standing up here in front of you all tonight, I would have said you were crazy. I'm absolutely humbled to be inducted into the Reading Hall of Fame with so many amazing athletes. When I tell people about the time that I spent at Reading High, I do so with great pride, and I can honestly say that I had the best sports experience here in Reading. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Beginning at a young age, I was playing sports every single weekend, and it pretty much took up my entire life. I never felt like I was missing out on what the other kids were doing or wishing I was somewhere else. I was where I wanted to be. I was surrounded by all of my best friends and my family, playing the sports that I loved. I was having the time of my life. Much of the time that I spent on those long weekends were under the guidance and tutelage of my coach and drill sergeant, Frank Driscoll. To say Frank was tough on us would be an understatement. He was not your typical middle school-aged girls softball coach. He treated us like adults at a young age and did not tolerate laziness or lack of focus. Frank was hard on us, but extremely fair, and he expected our best effort and nothing less. Then on the other side of the coaching spectrum is Bill Clements. Bill was the most positive, uplifting person and coach that I've ever known. He always knew just what to say at exactly the right time, and Bill is actually responsible for giving me the nickname Soupy. He and Frank complemented each other perfectly and were a huge influence in my love for softball. These two coaches were influential figures in my life and would prepare me for the next chapter of my athletic career, high school. One of the greatest moments of my high school career was winning the softball state championship as a sophomore. This would never have been possible without the coaching of Jill McElroy. Going into the season, everyone thought it would be a rebuilding year, and I'll never forget the headline in the newspaper is the cupboard bare for the Lady Rockets. There was a lot of noise coming from the outside, but Jill wouldn't hear any of that or let us buy into it. She banded us together as that Cinderella team and took us to the state championship. Then there was my other love, field hockey. Going into high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to play in the fall. I decided to give field hockey a shot, and thank God I did. It turned out to be an amazing decision. The only time I had second thoughts was the first time I encountered Mim Jarima. As far as first impressions go, let's just say she was very intimidating. Miss J was undoubtedly the toughest coach I've ever had and always expected the best out of me every day, not only as a player, but as a person as well. She took athletes that had never played field hockey before and developed teams that competed for the league title year after year. There's a pride about playing for Reading field hockey. Playing for Miss J meant you were held to a higher standard and more was expected out of you. Many alumni still come back to help out at practice and still remain a part of the program. That just doesn't happen. That is a testament to the coach and person that Miss J is. Miss J taught me invaluable life lessons that I will always carry with me. Thank you for that. Not only did I have the greatest coaches in the world, but I had the greatest teammates as well. We spent countless hours together, whether that was at practice, in the locker room, a long bus ride, or at a pasta party. Sharing those memories, both good and bad, through laughter and tears, is something that cemented that bond that we shared together. The time we spent together made us closer than just teammates. They made us a family. We all had a common goal and really did care about each other. I think that showed on the field. My teammates pushed me to not only be a better player, but a better leader as well. My best friends came from playing sports at Reading, and they will be my friends for life. Without them, I would not be standing up here today. I want to thank them for that. And last but absolutely not least is my family, who loved my time at Reading High just as much as me, if not more. They were my biggest supporters. First, there's my brother, Chris. He came to all my games, whether he liked it or not. Secretly, I think those are the times of his life. He would come videotape our field hockey games for Miss J, which included his own dorky commentary, which he is, of course, mortified of now. Then there's my sister, Taryn, who's always in the stands laughing out loud, which would echo across the fields, and I still think served as a distraction to the competition. Lastly, I would like to thank my parents. My mom and dad were at every single one of my high school games, not to mention my college games down in Easton, Mass, and all over the Northeast 10. How incredible is that? Oftentimes on game day, they would arrive at the field before we even did. You could say they were super fans. And after the game was over, no matter the outcome or my level of play, my parents' support never wavered. They're an amazing sounding board, and I always felt like I could talk to them about anything. I'm so incredibly lucky to have a family that was so supportive of me and my athletic career. My experience at Reading High would not have been anything without them. Thank you, guys. The truth is, I actually feel funny being up here by myself without all the people who were such a huge part of making my career what it was. My memories of Reading High are nothing but positive, and I could not be prouder to be from this town and a part of these amazing sports programs. Thank you for coming out tonight, especially my aunts, uncles, cousins, grandpa, Pat, Chris, Alana, my parents. And congratulations again to all the Hall of Fame inductees. Thank you.
Initial reaction when you learned of your selection to the Hall of Fame?
I was very excited. I had to admit I was a little surprised at first. I always picture the Hall of Fame to be this prestigious thing, and when I found out that I was going to be in it, I was honored, honestly, and very humbled to be among so many amazing athletes, and it just felt really great, I guess, when I found out. So.
Great career, softball and field hockey. Special moment or two during your playing days?
There's a couple. I'd say the top would be when we won the state championship in softball as a sophomore. That was amazing. No one really gave us a chance. They thought that we wouldn't even make tournament that year, and all of a sudden we came out and obviously won the state championship, and that was great. We were a young team. Again, no one really expected much, so that felt like a huge accomplishment. And then a second memory is when we beat Watertown in field hockey my senior year. Watertown hadn't been beaten in the league for years and years, I think maybe 15 years or something, and so again, no one really expected that we would do that, and we came out and won 1-0, and I just remember the feeling, just feeling so happy and accomplished and just proud of the whole team and everyone that was involved. So those two memories are definitely the top, I'd say.
Just to follow up, you mentioned about the Hall of Fame being prestigious. What's it like to be the youngest or one of the two youngest members of this year's class?
It's pretty amazing. It's unbelievable actually to think of it that way. I mean, to be among people like Mim Darima as a coach, and then there's just so many other people that I feel like are great athletes I've always looked up to, and yeah, it definitely it's pretty unbelievable to be one of the youngest, I guess. So yeah, it feels good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We were at the reception earlier today. Everyone wanted to go first, and I said to Courtney and Steve that they had to go last because they're probably the only two in the class that would be awake at this time of the night. Well, at least some people are still awake. Stephen Gath had an outstanding career. He's a throwback player. He could have played back in the 60s as a three-sport athlete. He excelled football, baseball, and basketball. His senior year in baseball, Steve went to the plate 80 times and did not strike out once. That's an unbelievable record. But what's more unbelievable about Stephen is the way people talk about his character and his leadership. And when you listen to Stephen talk, the truth and the honesty and the sincerity just bleed through in every word he says. This is a look at what makes Stephen Gath a Hall of Famer. The Lexington Blue Sox of the Intercity Baseball League would like to congratulate Steve Gath on his well-deserved Hall of Fame induction at RMHS.
Steve epitomizes great character and athletic excellence. We are proud to be associated with him on the Blue Sox. As a three-sport Middlesex League All-Star, Steve Gath's accomplishments on the playing field were numerous, but it was his leadership, work ethic, and passion for playing the game and playing it right that best represent his legacy at Reading Memorial High School. The respect that Steve earned from his teammates can best be evidenced by the fact that in his senior year, he was elected captain in all three of his sports: football, basketball, and baseball. Hall of Fame coaches Pete Moscarello and Tom Kasperzak both felt equally proud and lucky to have the opportunity to coach Steve. Moscarello notes that Steve was a confident player on the inside, but very humble on the outside, and further adds that Steve was a real gentleman who showed kindness to the others and represented his teammate, school, community, and family with extraordinary class and integrity. As far as his work ethic, Moscarello recalls Gath asking assistant coach Scott Farris to hit him 50 ground balls after each practice was over. Kasperzak was effusive in his praise for Steve's versatility on the football field, playing every conceivable role for the team, and emphatically stated that he was one of the best kids I ever coached as a person and a player. In football, Gath saw regular playing time as a sophomore receiver on the talented 2000 Super Bowl winning team. He made a key contribution in Reading's upset of the heavily favored Chelmsford team by catching 4 balls from Steve Pizzotti for 80 yards. Gath credited senior receivers Tim Bryant and Dave Kalianides for his development that year that would pay dividends in his next 2 seasons. In his junior year, Steve established himself as one of the very best receivers in the league, as well as earning all-league honors after the season as a defensive back. In the course of the season, Steve set 2 school records. The first was tying for the longest touchdown reception in school history, as he combined with quarterback Mike Hurley for a 91-yard pass play against Burlington. The other record was achieved later in the year with the longest interception return in school history, as he picked off a Lexington pass at the goal line and returned it back to the other end zone, 100 yards in all. But Gath saved his best for Thanksgiving Day when he scored 3 touchdowns in 3 different ways. Along with a 42-yard reception for a score, he returned both a fumble and interception for touchdowns in one of the all-time Thanksgiving Day performances by a Reading player. As a senior in 2002, he helped lead Reading to a 9-2 record and a share of the Middlesex League title. Only a 6-0 loss to Woburn prevented the team from returning to the playoffs. In the league opener against Lexington, Gath made an early statement of the type of year he would have when he ran back a punt 61 yards for a score and caught a 42-yard touchdown pass from another Pizzotti, this time Chris. Gath combined another productive season on offense with an outstanding year as a free safety and was named on the All-League team once again on the defensive side of the ball. For his career, Gath's productivity on both sides of the ball and special teams was remarkable. He amassed 10 receiving touchdowns, 3 defensive touchdowns, 1 special team touchdown, and had 11 interceptions. He was a member of 3 Middlesex League champions and 1 Super Bowl champion. As a floor leader and captain of the basketball team in his senior year, Steve helped lead the Rockets to a postseason berth in the Division II North Tournament, where the team fell just seconds short of upsetting the number 2 seed East Boston High School, losing in overtime. Steve was named to the 2nd All-Star team in the Middlesex League. Though passionate about all 3 sports, Gath's first love is baseball, and is the sport he continues to play at a high competitive level today. As a member of the Baseball 9 at RMHS, Gath matched, then exceeded his endeavors on the gridiron. As a 3-year starter, 1 spent at third base and the last 2 at shortstop, he was All-League in both his junior and senior years and named the Boston Globe All-Scholastic after his senior season. In his senior year, Reading was picked to finish 4th in the league by the preseason coaches poll, but finished with just 1 loss in the regular season, going 19-1 and earning the Middlesex League title. Gath, as he tends to do, made an early statement with 4 hits and 2 doubles in the opener versus Belmont. Steve helped the team go to 11-1 when he went 3 for 3 and had the winning hit at Lexington High School on a field that he continues to star on today. Later in the year at Morton Field, His 2 hits and a double helped the team atone for its only loss against Wakefield. Gath competed in his last career athletic contest against a Middlesex League opponent by banging out 2 hits and a home run versus Stoneham, helping the Rockets to their 15th straight win. For his senior season, he batted .448 with 19 runs batted in, and most remarkably did not strike out once during the entire season in 80 plate appearances. He became only the 3rd Reading player in history to record a quintuple double when he recorded double digits in runs, hits, RBI, base on balls, and stolen bases in the same season. For his career, he is the school's all-time leader in runs, doubles, and assists, and top 5 for hits, at-bats, RBI, base on balls, and stolen bases, while never being thrown out attempting a steal. That spring, he was one of 4 RMHS students to receive the MIAA's Citizenship Award for excellence academically, athletically, while contributing to service in the community. Steve's athletic exploits did not stop at Reading High. He went on to play 4 years of baseball at Bentley University, where he was the starting shortstop for all 4 seasons and played in 177 of his team's games during that period. When he left Bentley, he was the career leader in games played, games started, at-bats, and assists. Steve was named All-Northeast Conference in his senior year and was selected to play in the New England Collegiate All-Star Game at Fenway Park, where his play at shortstop and a triple earned him the MVP in the Division II-III All-Stars win over the Division I All-Stars. Gath pursued his love of the game overseas in 2008, playing 1 year of professional baseball in Holland with his Reading High and Bentley teammate Tim Bryant, before returning to the area to play for the Lexington Blue Sox of the Intercity League. Completing his 4th season with the Blue Sox in the summer of 2012, while earning the league's playoff Most Valuable Player award in 2011. Steve is currently dedicating much of his free time to support his friend and teammate Pete Frates with the Frates No. 3 Fund, which is working to strike out ALS. So it is with great pride that the RMHS Athletic Hall of Fame inducts Steve Gath into its class of 2013.
Please welcome Steve Gath.
Thank you very much. First, thank you to all you night owls that hung out to see the end of this night. It's much appreciated. I promise I won't be up here much longer than I have to be. And I know that my brother and sister-in-law have a 20th high school reunion to get to, so we'll keep it as quick as possible. But first, congratulations to this year's class of Hall of Fame inductees. And thank you to the members of the Hall of Fame committee for putting on such a spectacular event. This is a tremendous honor for me, and I'm extremely proud of being inducted into the Reading High Athletics Hall of Fame. Sports have always been a passion of mine. Since the first time I swung a wiffle ball bat as a child, to attending every Reading baseball camp as a little guy, I always knew I wanted to play sports, and they have been extremely important in my life, and they remain to be extremely important. And I just want to give a quick thank you to my Blue Sox family who came out to support me tonight. To spend the last 5 years playing with you guys has been an honor, so thank you for coming to support me. I owe thank you to a number of people. First and foremost to my parents. Mom, thank you for being the kindest and most loving mother I could have ever asked for. Thanks for being in every game, fall, winter, and spring. You were my biggest fan, my number 1 fan, and I want you to know that none of that went unnoticed, so thank you. Dad, thank you for dedicating so many years of your life to coaching our sports growing up as kids. It was very evident at each practice and each game how passionate he was for coaching us, and you certainly guided me down the path of continuing sports and keeping sports in my life, and I have until this day, thanks to you. And there's no question that my love of sports have stemmed from my family. 3 older brothers and a sister, Michael, Brian, Jamie, Sarah. I owe you guys all the thanks in the world. From Michael helping out our Little League team with Dad, to going to watch Brian play baseball in 1993 and football in 1992 for those great teams. You guys are my idols. To the one person who everyone compared me to, my brother Jamie. You set the bar extremely high for me, and you're a major reason why I'm standing here today. I had always wished that our time at Reading High had matched up so we could have played the sports that we love so much together alongside one another. It was unfortunate that we never got the chance to do that, but upon graduation we had a chance to play in the Inner City League for 2 years, and when that opportunity arose, I jumped at it, buddy, and those were two of the best summers of my life. And finally, to my twin sister Sarah, who was an exceptional athlete at Reading High, soccer player and a basketball player. Not very many people are fortunate enough, Sarah, to grow up as a twin, and I stress the word fortunate because that's what I was. So, thank you for everything you've done for me, for all the love and support you showed me. I'm extremely fortunate to have grown up with such an amazing person. Thank you to each of my family members for making such a big impact in my life. To the coaching staff, I first want to single out two coaches that had a major impact on me, and we were together from freshman year all the way to senior year. These two gentlemen were instrumental in my development, not only as a player and as an athlete, but as a student and a young man. And that's Dave Blanchard and Mike McSweeney. So thank you guys for everything you did for me. Thank you to RMHS Hall of Fame coach Tom Kasperzak, John Bowner, John Fiore, Ed McGuire, Jeff Nelson, who was versatile and was my coach in both basketball and baseball, Ted Bryson, another Hall of Fame coach, Scott Ferris, and the third Hall of Fame coach that I was so fortunate to play for when I was at Reading High, Pete Mascarello. There hasn't been a coach or a person that has had more of an influence on my life on and off the field than you, Coach. You are the consummate man in my eyes, and I'm extremely fortunate to have had the opportunity to play for you and to learn from you. Thank you. Through sports, I learned the values of pride, discipline, dedication, hard work, attitude, character, sportsmanship. These traits I will forever carry with me throughout my life. And even more, during my playing days, I was often told to be grateful for what I had, for the hand that I was dealt. I was encouraged to understand that there were people less fortunate than I, and that they didn't have the opportunity that I did to go out every day after school and play the sports that I loved. That's a tough concept for a teenager to grasp, but our coaches did a great job signing us up for giving back to those less fortunate through bell ringing for the Salvation Army and being a part of the Challenger baseball program. So as I've gotten older, I've continued to realize how important that lesson was and how extremely fortunate I am to be standing here today. Thank you to all my coaches for not only teaching me how to be a better athlete, but a better person. I'm extremely fortunate to have grown up in Reading, to have attended Reading schools, to have played Reading sports. But I'm even more fortunate to have had the opportunity to surround myself with the countless number of supporters and the residents of Reading. You have all supported me throughout my days at Reading High and beyond, and for that I will forever be grateful. To all my teammates, over the 4 years in playing 3 sports, I can't thank you guys enough. You are the ones that kept me going, day in and day out. Guys that I learned so much from, and guys that I had to try and keep up with, like Timmy Bryant, Dave Cal, Steve Pizzotti, Pete Croft, to guys like Mark DeMasi, Kevin Donahue, Michael Terriano, John Kazanovich, and many more my junior year. And finally to my classmates that I saw every day in school and I played sports with all 4 years and for most of my childhood. You guys are the ones that made playing sports so enjoyable. Through double sessions in the 90-degree heat, to running endless suicides in the winter, to seemingly endless journeys from foul pole to foul pole in the spring. You guys are the ones that made it all worth it. I wouldn't have had it any other way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. I want to thank Rick DeAngelis and the Blue Sox for sponsoring that video. I was remiss earlier, and I forgot to thank John Halsey and the Reading Bulldogs for sponsoring the 1994 baseball team's video. I apologize for that, John, but here's some airtime. A couple quick notes, and then we'll call it an evening. At the end of this, we'd like all of the Hall of Fame inductees to please meet at the podium. I want to get a group picture for the website. Before we go, I want to start by thanking everyone in the room tonight for being here, for supporting the class of 2013 and supporting the Hall of Fame. Without you, we could not do what we do, so thank you very much. To the athletes, the teams, the coaches, you have given us, the fans, hours and years of excitement and thrills and fun. You've represented your school, your team, your town, and your families with dignity and pride and class, the way we expect a Reading Rocket to, and you exceeded those expectations. You are now a member of an elite club, 100 strong. Congratulations, you truly are the best that Reading has to offer. Two years from now, 2015, we will be right back here. We hope that you will be here with us again. Thank you for being here. Good night.